know what? I could be worth negative $300,000 and I could be working at McDonald's for the rest of my fucking life. And I would still consider myself blessed.
We don't even know if the choke killed him, right? The person that did the initial, the medical examiner did the initial report said that she couldn't determine because of the concoction of drugs that he was on. And the fact that the police got him and he still had a heartbeat.
Could he sue her for like
say
emotional
whether or not
distress?
he actually did that, or if it's just like that was the major cause in it.
So Lactoid might be able to speak to this better than me. With like beyond a reasonable doubt or whatever, like I forget if they give an exact percentage for beyond a reasonable doubt, but they basically like I heard people talking about like percentages, right? And I'm pretty sure it's in civil litigation, it just has to be like probable, probably. So you could be like 51-49.
Yeah, so
it's someone liable in a civil suit.
Yeah, in civil suits, it's preponderance, which is 50% plus one. So basically, if it's more likely than not, that's the standard when it comes to civil cases. When it comes to criminal, it's beyond a reasonable doubt. You're right. There's no firm percentage, but it's just like, do you, as the jury, if you have like a reasonable doubt, a doubt that is like sufficiently reasonable, then you shouldn't vote to convict. And so it's a higher standard. It's more difficult to meet.
Right. So 50 plus 1 in the state of New York with a politically sensitive case, I would say that's a toss up for whether or not that dude owes millions of dollars for wrongful death. I have no idea.
You know, but I mean, fucking Donald Trump will sell some watches and a portion of the proceeds will go to his fucking defense GoFundMe fund.
Did you see Penny's going to get a congressional medal, or he's nominated for a congressional medal?
Jesus.
I think it was a senator from Arizona, I think, nominated him for a congressional medal.
So counterpoints. What I wanted to ask you about was a statement you made previously, and because I just wanted a bit more clarity on it. You said, as a cop, because you're a former cop, that if you encountered a person like that in the subway, you would yoke them. I don't know what that means. Could you explain?
I'd go hands-on, 100%. Like that person's going in cuffs. And so the standard for well, here's the thing though that I want to articulate. Okay, the deadly force standard is basically like imminent threat of death or great bodily harm to yourself or others. Okay. And so from what he's saying, if I see a person who's mentally unwell, who's flipping out, talking about how he doesn't want to go back to jail, talking about how he's ready to die, talking about how somebody's going to die that day, then at that point, I'm pretty much presuming I'm in like a potentially deadly force encounter. Now, the reason why I wouldn't like shoot him or anything like that immediately is because the dude didn't present any weapons, right? So at that point, like he could have a knife or a screwdriver in his pocket, he could have a gun in his pocket or something like that. But basically, like until that's presented, I can't just shoot the guy, right? So that means that I'm ready to pull my gun and shoot if I need to, but I'm going to go hands-on. And so if I'm going hands-on, then at that point it becomes like rawly situational. If I can physically dominate him, get him on the ground, put him in handcuffs, then we can call it a day, right? But if he goes for a knife, he goes for a screwdriver, he starts stabbing me, he pulls a gun, something like that, then at that point he's got to get, I hate to be so cavalier about it, but it's got to die. If it's him or you, you're going to smoke him.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so I guess I wanted to clarify that. That makes sense. You have to gain control of the situation.
Can I articulate something about the blood choke and the air choke though, real quick?
Sure.
So I did Marine Corps. I was in the Marine Corps as well. So presumably the martial arts that he did, Daniel Penny did, is the same martial arts stuff that I did. It's called the Marine Corps Martial Arts Program. And in the entry-level tan belt program, you do get taught blood chokes and air chokes, right? Basically what you're taught is that if you do an air choke, you can choke somebody out in like a minute. If you do a blood choke, you can choke them out in like 7 or 8 seconds, right? And so blood chokes, Marines do not go over deadly force a whole lot because everything's deadly force, right? So the thing is, if adrenaline is kicked in, I don't know if Daniel Penny would have like the mental ability to be like, I'm at this level of use of force. He might have just been adrenaline out and had adrenaline kick in. I have no idea. But the point is that he knew that he was putting the other guy in a dangerous situation. He was acting accordingly.
Well, we can assume.
So was it a blood choke or a wind choke?
Don't know. And honestly, based off of what they were testifying, I have to assume it was either a bad blood choke or an air choke because basically, I think he was conscious for 2 or 3 minutes.
He was conscious for several minutes. He didn't have any like physical trauma that would be associated with like him squeezing as hard as he
like
could.
a crushed esophagus.
He didn't have like a crushed larynx or like anything like that. So I mean,
that was my understanding.
He might have been
as
choking
well.
he might have been choking too hard, maybe, but like he certainly wasn't choking as hard as he could. He was definitely choking to subdue and to get him to stop, not to like choke him out with.
And I'll tell you too, that's like a position of advantage. So if you have somebody's back and you're holding them from behind and you have their neck, if they don't have access to like a knife or a screwdriver or anything like that, you're probably good to just hold what you got and just wait for the cops to show up, right? It would be pretty hard for you to have somebody's back and their neck and for them to break out. Now, that being said, if he's still cussing, if he's still thrashing, if he's throwing elbows, if he headbutts you to the rear, all that kind of stuff, those would all be mitigating circumstances where if somebody's headbutting me, while I'm in a position of advantage, I might choke him out, right? Because I don't want to get knocked out.
We can also assume that he didn't apply the choke immediately. And the reason we can assume that is because for several minutes, other people were holding him down as he was fighting, right? So he wasn't even initially probably not even doing anything other than just holding him in that position. We don't know when the actual pressure was applied to cut off the air or the oxygen.
And another thing too, like this is kind of dumb, but Marines are dumb, right? I've seen half a dozen to a dozen people had blood chokes apply to them, lose consciousness, and then be revived. And what I mean by that is like, you're not supposed to do that, but Marines get into fights in the barracks or whatever. They choke each other out. Somebody passes out or whatever. You rub their sternum, they wake up, right? It happens. So that's young men in relatively close to ideal health, right? When you're talking about mid-30s, drugs, maybe a mental health issue, maybe an undiagnosed heart issue.
Sickle cell. He had sickle cell anemia.
Then all of those factors add up to the fact that that's probably not somebody you want to blood choke and then just presume they're going to resume consciousness.
Yeah, the sickle cell anemia is like a big part. Like it was difficult. That's what part of the reason why it was difficult to determine a cause of death, right? Because if you're like fucked up on spice, which already has pretty major cardio effects, combined with the fact that your blood, so people with sickle cell anemia have abnormal clotting, right? And so, yeah, I mean, it's very possible that was it a contributing factor? I mean, it very well probably was. But then the question is, were the actions reasonable, right?
Shouldn't that be taken?
So I want to congratulate.
Like if we take the guy's previous history of like being aggressive and abusive, don't you take in like these people could potentially have either mental illness or whatever physical ailments or illnesses they had before? You're just like choking them out, hoping that they're gonna. Come back.
You can. What do you do in that situation, Ollie? Like you got some crazy fucker like screaming in your face.
Yeah.
Like
he wasn't screaming in his face.
Oh, well, okay. If you say, all right,
according to you, it's none of my business.
Oh, well, that would be my answer. No, I would try to leave.
There we go. I would say, hold
on. That being said, if I'm going to say I'm sitting here on a train and it's me, and then where Vince is sitting right there is an old lady. And then we got some crazy dude hitting her in her face, like screaming at her, saying, somebody's going to die. You're going to die. I'm going to die. Patui's going to die. Who knows? And they're freaking out. And I, being a 350-pound dude, I'm like, this guy's like 160. I can probably walk over there, especially with wrestling experience, and put him on his back or put him on his front and hold him there until cops get there. And it'd be done. And like, I'm not going to have to worry this guy pulls out a knife after he kills grandma and he goes, you saw it. Bang, bang. Yeah, I might worry about it then because I don't want to get dead either. Like at that point, yeah, it's none of my business until like, yeah, it might be my business. And so I can put it down, not worry about it, and go on my merry way. I mean, what do you do with this? Are you going to let grandma die right there, Ollie? Are you going to just be like,
I want to answer Ali's question from like a cop perspective, though. Just because somebody might have mitigating circumstances like a mental health issue or drug issues or excited delirium is something that we go over where people are actually detached from reality as a result of drugs. Another one that's really common is diabetes. So diabetes, people who are hypo or hyperglycemic, they can be completely disconnected from reality. That doesn't mean that you don't intervene. Right. So you're right. It can be a factor in your level of gentleness. But when you're making the calculation on all of the people who are on the train, they're not doing anything wrong. So they don't deserve to die or get injured or anything like that. The person who deserves to be intervened on is obviously the person that's instigating. So yeah, it should absolutely be a calculation, but it doesn't change whether or not you're going to do something about it.
I can't calculate your health history because I don't know it.
When we're telling civilians to run these assessments, and anytime a civilian then feels worried,
police officers can't either.
Kill.
Police officers can't. I can't know your medical history when you're sitting there flailing at me.
No, I know. The point is that they were toting around. They were kind of like, oh, this guy's previous criminal history is this.
Well, yeah, I don't know his previous criminal history. I don't care.
I know he didn't know criminal history, but we can't. I'm not going to cheer on the fact that, like, in the aftermath, like, oh, we found out that this guy's like, oh, a huge criminal. That doesn't mean the guy's a hero because, like,
hold on.
Hold on.
That's academic.
Counter. Let me just step in here. So this is a different form of an is-ought problem that a lot of people run into. Hush, Admiral Gibbs.
Turn your mic up, Fabian. You're low.
Well, I don't. Okay, I'll get a little closer. So. But again, so this is another form of is-ought problem, right? So I agree with you that it isn't relevant to him in that moment. When he is engaging what his previous criminal history is, as well as what his medical symptoms are, right? And it's the same when women talk about, like, hey, I was raped, here's my story. And then a man goes, well, what were you wearing? And feminists, they lose their mind and go, you think because she's wearing a red slutty dress or something that you think is that way, that she deserves to be raped? And it's like, no, that's not what we're saying. And the same thing is true in this case. What we're saying is we're trying to determine what that person's state of mind is, regardless of, like, a small clip. And so his previous history gives us insight into how he might be acting. If this guy was a choir boy his whole entire life, right, then all of a sudden it's like, well, maybe we need to ask witnesses again, like was this guy clearly just having a medical issue, or was he genuinely, like, threatening and scary? Like, these things give us a better understanding of his state of mind at the time. And similarly, it doesn't actually matter that he has sickle cell anemia. It doesn't matter what drugs he's on, etc. But it does matter if we're trying to find the legal fact, which is, did this chokehold, is this the major reason that he's dead? Or is it a minor variable, or is it not a variable at all, right? And so we have to look at all of the medical evidence and all these other things to determine, did the choke kill him, or did the choke just hold him and he had all these other issues, and that's the reason that he died? He would have died 10 minutes later anyways, because he was kirked the fuck out on drugs and he had all these other medical issues, right? So it's not about an ought, it's about an is, and determining the facts of the case.
No, I'm talking about the rhetoric around it, where it's like he's toted around as a hero because this guy was, like, a previous criminal. It's kind of like the same thing. I know you just get riled up with the Kyle Rittenhouse thing. It's like, well, he killed these criminals. It's like, he didn't know who he was.
Well, hold on. So
I know. I'm just trying to, like,
and I'm not sure if I'm digging into this.
Like, he killed some pedos.
Well, Fabian, hold on.
Does that matter?
Yeah. So I kind of want to deal with the odd, even if I'm not necessarily working within your philosophical framework properly. So the odd that I kind of feel Ali is poking at is the fact that, like, well, you know, obviously this is a guy having problems and you're intervening on him. You might be taking like unnecessary risks with his life based off of the information that's available. And so while I don't want to necessarily entertain his logic, because I feel like that takes the onus, like that makes it so nobody can intervene ever, because everyone is always paranoid about, like, what kind of messed up stuff might be going on.
You can only engage with the evidence you have at the moment.
However, I also I don't know if Motorsports was going with this. He was kind of saying, like, well, as a cop, you can't necessarily tell everything that's going on. Well, I still think that there's hints at things that at least police officers should be aware of, and maybe military members should be aware of too when they're interacting with people. I guarantee you there were Afghans and fucking Iraqis who were, like, autistic and shit, and they got shot because they didn't know what the hell was going on. And it's not because they were any enemy combatants. It's because they actually had mental health issues, right? Or they had disabilities. And then I also guarantee you that with cops,
like,
sorry, real quick.
Culturally.
With cops, I can tell you that there was a type 1 diabetes guy. I think it was type 1. It's whatever one you can't control, right? And I dealt with the type 1 diabetes guy, and I basically was able to negotiate with him, talk with him, get him water, get him EMTs, all that kind of stuff. And that's because I approached it differently. Whereas a different cop who's a total fucking dickhead in my previous shop, he bumped into a type 1 diabetes guy, different guy. He started a fucking fight because he basically saw somebody who was detached from reality, and he's like, open your doors or I'm going to fuck you up. And that's the way that he approached the situation.
Yeah, I mean, like, and to your point,
I'll go with
like,
that.
There's, you know, there can be supporting evidence, right? Like, if you show up to a car accident and someone's acting crazy, that's different than at the mall, right? Like you recognize that there are circumstances that like might have them in a different state of mind. Your ability to talk them down might be easier.
I'm processing some PTSD off of what you said. It was at a car accident, which again, I wasn't thinking when I was watching the body cam footage, I wasn't thinking type 1 diabetes. I was thinking head trauma. And so that's why I thought it was fucked up that he was fucking up this guy or whatever. Cause I was like, dude, he just got into a wreck. You don't know if he had his seatbelt on. He could have had a fucking head injury. What the fuck is your problem?
So I went to
diabetes. I said car accident because that's a common thing that happens when they have delirium.
People get bonked on the head and they lose. Yeah, they lose it all the time.
Yeah. So, I was asking you about that.
Read the manifesto.
Oh, I finished that a while ago. But hey, Sean, thank you for the $10 Canadian. Here's for the mic replacement. Abe. Oh, thank you, Sean, and then thank you, our friend Scott, for harassing my my followers to help out. But Sean's a good one. He's a regularly very kind to the channel. So like I'm trying to like process my feelings as to what I think about this case. My problem is the chokehold. I mean, obviously, I'm not, what a revelation, right? But it's not the intervening. I want people to intervene when others are in trouble, right? Like I'd like to think that I would intervene if others were in trouble in front of me, right? It's never happened before, but I'd like to think that of myself. And I think, like going along with what Counterpoints was talking about, like with like the cops and the power that they end up wielding. My problem is this person thought like I just choke this guy out. I could just do that, right? I have this ability. I can just like put my hands on them and choke them out.
Why are you presuming the worst level of intent?
Yeah, I don't know that there was that much thought.
Did I presume the worst level of intent?
Yeah, that sounds like you were presuming the worst level.
All I said was that I could choke him out.
Well, this is
I didn't say
hold on.
It was a potential hypothetical where it's like that could be a thought. Where it's like he could have that thought. He was.
Well, okay, I would like.
Hold on, guys.
How was saying that?
It's really obvious who's been in a fight.
The worst level of intent would be, hey, I can murder this guy. Right? I didn't say that.
Yeah,
I just said.
I mean, so you're one under. Like literally, the evidence is there's another.
He actually did choke him out.
Hold on.
I'm just going off the facts.
Sure. Let's just go off the facts.
He actually did, but he didn't know that he could. Probably.
It's taking 2 people to hold this guy down, right? So we know this guy's probably struggling.
Hold on. Before you go down there, what does choke out mean to you guys?
That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Like put him in a chokehold, or does that mean like?
If it's put him to sleep, that might have been the most safest way for everybody involved.
No. Okay, let's hold on.
Let me explain this.
The safest way. If you have a real naked chokehold, I was just talking to a bouncer. If you have a real naked chokehold, you have control of the situation. You don't actually have to choke a person out. People like could have unwilling individuals.
Hold on,
bars, right? Like violent individuals.
This is a bouncer situation, Prime. This is not a bouncer situation.
Why wouldn't this be a bouncer situation?
This guy. So if he could have had a needle with like AIDS in it on the thing, he could have had a knife.
AIDS is not in a needle. That's HIV.
Hold on, sure, yeah, they have guns, but this is in the middle of it. Hold on. This is the middle of an altercation, in the middle of something. There's 2 people already holding him down. Clearly, this guy's struggling. We know from past evidence he's already schizophrenic, so he's probably freaking out. So what would be the most? All right, hold on. So if you're sitting here and you go, this guy's a threat to all of us around us, and this guy's actively struggling and could grab one of a knife or something we don't know about, wouldn't it not occur to you? Hey, if we just got to put this guy to sleep, it's safer for everybody.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm sorry, Gibbs. I triggered you so hard there by just saying the words choke out, right?
I mean, I'm asking you. Well, that's what that is,
exactly right? What happened. No, the safest way is not putting a person to sleep, right?
Why not?
As if you have for everything that was it Scott or maybe it was Counterpoints. I forget which one.
But these are regular people.
For everything they were, one of them was saying about like how chokeholds work. Right? And how dangerous those things are. That's exactly the reason, right?
No,
That's
it's still regular people, bro. They're protecting everybody there. They're not officers.
If it was a regular person, still responsible for trying to do that. And he's a Marine, so he was trained. So presumably he went through the same training as our friend.
You should have just shot him.
Marines aren't trained to be safe.
Scott, well, similar training.
But if he was in Texas,
that's the problem with the assumption.
Issue. If he was in Texas, we would have just shot him. And that would have been the problem.
Yes, Texas is more brutal than every other place. Yes, I agree. Right?
There's other states like this too, but Joe would be arguing a whole different point.
I'm sorry, I triggered you so hard that you're reacting this way. I barely even got my point out. All I'm saying is that, hey, he thought he could choke a person out, right? That's all I said. And then you immediately jump in on like, how could you? That's obviously the safest way to do things.
Could have been the safest way.
Yeah, sure. Noted, right? Maybe like
it seems like you're triggered. Not me.
Sure, yeah. Maybe cutting a person's ear off, right? Is the safest way to handle the situation. Okay,
yes.
Noted. Thank you.
Violent.
Got it. Yeah. Any which way, back to it. Yeah, like
y'all are wild.
This guy thought that that he could just do this. It seems wildly irresponsible to me. May not murder, right? I don't have any evidence that this person intended to kill this individual. I don't have any evidence to say that I don't know, he had this kind of mindset or anything. I don't have anything like that, right? It just seems wildly irresponsible to do that.
But hold up. So here's another thing where we should talk about mindset, though. Okay. Mm-hmm. So like, I'm not trying to be like, oh, Marines. But like, Marines are kind of taught that literally, like one of the things that we're taught in combat training is be courteous and polite to everyone you meet. Or wait, be courteous and polite, but also have a plan to kill every single person you meet. That's literally like a sign on the door. Mm-hmm. We're also taught like the book A Message to Garcia, in which like somebody takes initiative and literally travels to Cuba to coordinate an attack with Cuban insurgents. We're also taught that a piss poor plan like executed now is worth way more than a perfect plan that takes months to coordinate, right? Mm-hmm. So these things are, I would say, beaten into, like, and even if this guy was like a peacetime Marine, even if he had never deployed, never went to combat, these are the kind of lessons that are beat into Marines in boot camp and Marine combat training. So we have all this empathy for the person who's died, and rightfully so. However, that's probably all subconsciously brewing in that Marine's mind. See, so to you, you're saying like it's wildly irresponsible.
This is the problem I have with what Prime's saying.
For a Marine, it's wildly irresponsible not to act.
Yeah. So Prime, the problem I have is the idea that he had time to have a conversation.
Pause for a quick second. Good.
Sure.
I'll get back to you in a second. I didn't say not to act. In fact, I said the opposite. I started off saying the opposite. Hey, I want people to act. I want people when others are in trouble to to care for your fellow man or woman and respond in that situation. I said I hope that I would respond if there was
just
trouble
the blood choke.
Yeah, it would be the choke. Yes, it would be the choking. But then I also said that. Hey, my problem is the choking, not that.
Okay, hold on, Prime.
We're trying to hold him down. So
just give me a second. Give me a second. So my problem with what you're asking is the idea that he had time to make the decision to employ the chokehold, because I've been in a lot of fights and I take what's available. I don't care if I have to hit you in the jaw, kick you in the nuts, choke you out. It doesn't matter. I'm winning that fight. You're really putting this level of complexity that I don't think exists in that moment.
So he's surrounded by individuals.
Sure.
Perry and the assailant.
Okay.
The victim. They're surrounded by individuals. We know individuals are helping them, right? We just went over that. Individuals are helping this individual. He has no, going off what our friend Counterpoints said, right? With like his rules of engagement. like there's no reason to believe that
everybody has a plan to get hit in the
force
face.
needs to be deployed against this individual at this point in time, right? Because as far as we know, he didn't have a weapon, or he hadn't deployed any sort of weapon. And so, yeah, if the weapon comes out, that changes the calculations immediately.
But that's a reaction. It's not a battle plan.
But we judge people. We judge people for the reactions. Hold on. Hold on. We judge people for the reactions. We do it all the time, right?
Sure.
Yes, you can do something in the heat of the moment, and we still find you guilty of doing that bad thing in the heat of the moment. So that's not a defense in itself.
Well, if you can show some,
he had control of this individual. It didn't seem that this person had to be choked out.
Well, hold on. You say he had control of them. Why did he? How did he have control of him? Through the chokehold?
He had their back. You can wrap yourself around somebody's neck without applying pressure to the carotid artery. Now here's the thing. Hold on. Here's the thing. Oftentimes, just off of like instinct and MMA training and martial arts training and all that kind of stuff, you're basically taught to squeeze. So your instinct is going to be there. But to Prime's credit, you can be in that position with your elbow wrapped around the neck. You have 80-90% of control of the situation, and you do not have to hit the arteries, and you don't have to hit the esophagus. It's kind of counterintuitive to training, but you can do it.
So here, I just want to say a couple of things. So first of all, piggybacking off of counterpoints, when I was doing trauma lanes in the Army, right, where you go, the whole goal is to go to the X, quickly identify, what injuries the person potentially has, determine whether or not you need to move them off of the X or whether or not you need to retreat and get them later, and then how you're going to retrieve them. One of the things that you do is you have to put tourniquets on people, right? Now, if you want to see a drill instructor lose their ever-loving shit, you want to see them angrier than you've ever seen them in your entire life, and have someone screaming in your face with spit flying on your face, don't put a tourniquet on tight enough. They will scream at you, train as you fight, train as you fight, train as you fight. And that is one of the critical elements of understanding, is that when you get into that situation where bullets are flying, or where, you no longer think, okay, you act. And when you act off of your training. And so they're very, very afraid that if you don't put a tourniquet on tight, you're not going to have the rational thought in a combat situation to put the tourniquet on tight enough. You have to train to put on a tourniquet so fucking tight that it actually hurts the person you're training on and leaves a bruise on them, so that when it happens in real life, that's your instinct, right? So that does.
Can I respond to that real quick?
And what's occurring here?
Yeah, I'd like to as well.
I want to finish my second point. And the second point is this. The best evidence we have about Daniel Penny's state of mind is that he gave an interview immediately after. That tape is released. Now, during that interview, he is unaware that Jordan Neely is dead. He has no idea that he's dead. So he thinks that he is being interviewed as a witness to put that person in jail. He does not in any way, shape, or form during that initial interview realize that he's a suspect of a crime. And during that time, you could say he's downplaying it or whatever. But it is the best evidence we have of his state of mind. In that time, he says that he was afraid for other people's lives, that he kind of remembered people pushing people in front of trains, that he normally doesn't intervene, but this was so crazy that he felt he needed to intervene, that the guy was saying crazy things. He held him. He immediately screamed to get the cops, and that guy was still kicking and was doing different things. And then very shortly after, as his recollection calls, the cops come after, and then he hands them over to the cops, and that's when you guys took him. He doesn't know that this person has lost their life or that anything has occurred in that moment. You could infer that he thinks some fucked up thoughts, or that he thinks I gotta choke this guy out because he's a fucking problem. But it just doesn't, it seems very unlikely when we have his account recorded when he thinks that he's a witness, not when he thinks he's a suspect.
Guys, well, I don't know why, hold on. I don't know why these words have gotten this reaction. Less so from you, Scott, right? Because I think you're trying to do this.
I'm just explaining the situation.
Right. Yeah. But when I say, hey, he thinks, hey, I can just choke this person out. What I mean by that is that he choked that person out. right? That's what I mean.
Yeah, but we might.
He decided to choke him out.
We might be inferring.
I understand what you're saying, but that's not.
We might be inferring malicious intent. So
Right.
so when I hear that, just to explain what I hear, hey, I can just choke this guy out. What that sounds to me is like it's very cavalier. He's not taking the situation seriously. He's just trying to get it done as quickly as possible, right? He has no regard for the safety or well-being of the person that he's intervening upon. And I just think that's a lot of assumptions. But to address Scott real quick, so I'm not necessarily saying that for Daniel Penny. Never in a million years would I convict Daniel Penny of manslaughter unless I literally had audio of him saying, I can't wait to choke this fucking guy out. I've been looking for a fucking excuse to fucking, take 100%. Some dirtbag homeless person out. That's the only way that I would convict that guy of like murder or manslaughter, right?
Yeah.
So that's to address point number 2.
Well, that would be murder,
when I'm
not
addressing
manslaughter.
point number 1, though, point number 1, he was talking about like train like you fight and all that kind of stuff, okay? Well, one of the things the reason why I said what I said, which is you can control somebody from the rear, have your arms wrapped around their neck without applying pressure to the arteries or to the esophagus or windpipe or whatever, is because like I've been in that situation, and there's probably a healthy chunk of young men who watch this show. Some of them might become military people, some of them might become cops, and I want them to know that there's a gradient of what you can do in a situation, and you don't have to let your adrenaline or your training completely take you over. It's hard. That's why my deference always goes to the person in the situation. However, like you can be smart in a high stakes situation.
And the smart thing, smart thing to do would be not to choke him out. To use that. That would be the smart thing to do.
I disagree with that.
I also want to respond to what Scott said.
That's the point of the statement.
I also want to. I want to follow on to what
he's making. Hold on, I am going to get this out. That's going to happen. So shut the fuck up. Thank you. Much appreciated. Any which way, back to it. The safest thing would have been not to put his hands around that person's neck. Going to the train.
Then the safest thing wouldn't have been that.
Going back to the train, how you fight. Maybe I'm missing. I might be misinterpreting the point of the story. Right?
Can I give you?
No, you can't. No, you can't because I'm still talking.
No,
Thanks.
if he has a question, I want to answer because it's important.
I might be misinterpreting the point of the story, but it seems like it's like when you're training, you're trained to do it to the maximum, and so that and train how you fight because you fight to the maximum when you think your life is on the line, right? Mm-hmm. And okay, great. You're saying that it sounds like within this emergency situation, right? You put your best out because you think your life is on the line. But even when that happens, right? We still judge people for their actions. We still judge them like you might have thought that your life was on the line, but like a reasonable person would say that it's not on the line, right? Just the victim didn't have.
I'll answer. I'll clarify.
Yeah, no,
right?
okay.
Scott. So when we're talking about intent, we're talking about mens rea, right? We're talking about an intent to harm. And so what I'm saying is that it's far more likely in a situation with high adrenaline, with someone that's not doing this day to day like a cop, like Counterpoints is, right? But someone that has only been trained specifically to go out and kill, right? That they're doing everything they can to do the best, but in that situation, you don't actively think about like, oh, I'm gonna loosen my chokehold to preserve this person's air.
Scott,
you're like, I got to control this person. This person's crazy, etc.
Yeah, give me 1 second.
Get in grid one.
So here's the problem with all of that is that we have a lot of data to prove that we do not, under stress, we don't rise to the occasion. We default to our basis level of training. What the most primal, the most beat into our skull thing. That is and so that's why what Scott was talking about, that's exactly why they do that. And that's exactly why I can't blame this guy at all Yeah, I can't. I find no fault with Daniel Penny. He could have. He could have choked.
Real quick. If you don't have training, if you don't have, wait a second, everyone. I want to hear a good one that has to say. Now I'm going to respond to that, and then
So I can't find any fault with what he did because he's trained. He saw a problem. He's trained. If he makes a decision to involve himself into that, he's chosen to act. But how he acts is he's not going to say, well, you know what, I need to loosen up here a little bit, because his training says I've got to control this guy until help arrives. And that's and that's what's going to happen. There's no decision making.
Counterpoints. Wait. I'm going to respond to this. I'm going to lag to it. I'll go to you after that. Unless you want.
Go ahead. I'm
done. Yeah, we do have the topic. I'm fine with this standard as long as we apply it to everyone else. I'm fine with that. Okay. So in an emergency, when your adrenaline is up, we say that people are less accountable to their actions, and we say, well, I mean, he defaults to his training. He defaults to they default to their baser instincts, or however you like to phrase that. Well, okay, sure, all right. Well, you know, when I feel great stress, great anger, and I take it out on someone else, then I want that applied to me. I want that applied to anyone, a person in the commission, a person within the commission of a crime, right? Like, hey, I meant to only rob them, but I accidentally pulled the trigger because of adrenaline or whatever, right? Like, I want that applied to
that's
everyone.
What murder 2 is. It's literally what murder 2 is. We have a whole category of murder specifically because we do apply that logic. Because without mens rea, it's not first-degree murder.
It's not premeditation.
You chose to rob a liquor store, and someone died in the process.
You still have mens rea.
Well, you have mens rea for
it's just not premeditated.
Yeah. But again, that's the difference between manslaughter charge and a murder charge, right? Like, there's a is that like he wasn't trying to do that.
So then what we're talking about, Rosalie, what you all are responding to is like how I feel about this crime right now. That's what you're responding to. And you're saying this, how you feel is unreasonable, right? Okay. So I'd say that then there's a level of culpability. Then we can understand that even if he had this level of training and he improperly used that training because there was no reason to put him in a chokehold, period, none whatsoever to do that.
I can't make that determination.
Well, hold on, that's debatable.
I know everybody got it. Yeah, you got it. You think so?
I didn't got to say my point. I didn't got to say my point. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So I'm saying there's a level of accountability for doing that. Like stepping in and helping, great. I actually want to encourage that. Doing so in an irresponsible way, yeah, you get held responsible for that. So let's go to Lactoid, and then we'll go to Ali, counterpoints, our friend Corey, Imo Gibbs, and Vince, and then we can move on to our actual topic.
So I'm going to clean up some stuff. So mens rea is going to be an element basically of every crime except for strict statutory crimes, right? So when it comes to what he was charged with, second-degree reckless homicide, there is still an element of mens rea. Is that did he intend to use force, and was that force unreasonable? Essentially, right? Did he know or reasonably expect that this force could lead to death? There was really only two questions in the Daniel Penny case. People keep talking about, like, did he mean to kill him or not? Nobody, I don't think really anybody thinks that he meant to kill him. That wasn't even alleged by the prosecution. I mean, nobody thought that. There's really not really a point. The only question was the initiation of force reasonable given the threat posed by Jordan Neely? And when the force was initiated, was that force reasonable to stop the threat? And so those were like really the two questions that the jury had to like come to a conclusion on. And when it comes to, in my perspective, I think the first question is actually easier than the second. I think based on the witness testimony, it's probably pretty clear that this guy was unhinged. This guy has a long history of being unhinged. We don't have a video. Normally, you can't bring up people's histories, of course. And if we had a video, it'd be pointless to bring up this person's history. But we have to assume how he was acting. We have to predict how he was acting because we weren't there. And if he was acting as he had acted in the past, it probably was a horrific, scary event in which the people who said they fear for their lives, they probably were reasonably fearing for their lives. Okay, so that one's pretty easy. The harder question was the actual force reasonable? Was the chokehold that lasted close to 6 minutes, was that reasonable?
6 minutes.
And now there's some argument over that, but that was the allegation, right? Now, I think there's one there on one side. The argument is he could have done less, right? He could have done less. He could have held him differently. He could have done this. He could have done that. And so because he didn't use reasonable force in restricting him, which led to his death. Because he used force that he should have known could have led to his death, then he should be punished. I think the problem is I don't think you get to where Daniel Penny thought that the force he was using would result in Neely's death. I think that's the disconnect, because I watched the video. And in the video, Daniel Penny is like commenting like, no, I feel his breath. Like, when somebody says like, oh, he's like, make sure he can breathe or whatever. He's like, no, I feel him. I feel he's breathing. Like Scott said, his initial reaction was not that this person died. And by the way, he was still alive by the time the cops got there. So the question is, did Daniel Penny think that the force he was using was reckless, or was somebody in Daniel Penny's position, like would a reasonable person think that was a reckless use of force? And I think given the circumstances, I think there's a tough sell. I think the jury didn't buy it. I think that, if somebody's acting like that and every single time you kind of let a little bit go, they start struggling again, and you got to hold them down again over and over again over the course of 6 minutes. That's something that that the jury believed that's something that a reasonable person would do, right? If you're trying to restrain somebody and every time you let go a little bit, they're fighting you, and every time you're monitoring them and they're still breathing, and this is like the thing and adrenaline is sky high, and this is going for 6 minutes. Was the force that Daniel Penny using reasonable? And I think they just decided that it was. There's really no other conclusion. But a different jury could come. I suppose, to the idea. Well, maybe he should have. I don't know. Moved his arm underneath his arm, like underneath his arms, and like held him down that way, or held down his legs. Somebody was holding down his legs. There was 2 other people helping him hold the guy down.
But then you're calling into expertise of the jury to talk about like martial arts.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go to the next person. Was it Ali? I said.
I think so.
I believe Ali. Yeah.
So like, if this guy having training is what gets him out because like you resort to your base training, does that mean that like civilians then should just like be intervening and then putting people in chokeholds? Because wouldn't civilians have less training and not know how to react, and therefore like the chokehold would be the thing, the easiest way to
I don't think the training helps.
From the back.
Yeah.
I think Ali's right on this. I don't think the training actually helps the argument for Daniel Penny, because the argument would be if you're untrained and you're in this situation, you're going to be given more leeway as to what's reasonable. But the argument for Penny is if you're trained, then you should know that this could potentially lead to death. The reason why the defense was hammering on the fact that there was a spice and sickle cell was, even if those are contributing causes of death, by the way, that doesn't necessarily get you off the hook. But what it does is it kind of gets to the idea is, was the force that Daniel Penny using reasonable? And if this guy's going to die by the slightest use of force, well, we expect the slightest use of force to be reasonable. So maybe it was reasonable.
Yeah. So like, and then would you be saying the same for like civilians who feel like, well, this person is threatening? I've been in New York, I've been to Chicago, I lived in Detroit. Like, there are definitely people that you're walking that are in the streets that make you feel uncomfortable or uneasy or whatever it may be. And if at any point in time we just feel like, well, my life's in danger, I can just turn around and get this person. Do you extend that to a civilian for intervening as well? We do. All right, cool.
Absolutely,
that's all.
But it would have to be more than that, obviously. Like
why? That's all he had.
Hopefully.
Well, he can't just be sketchy. There's got to be more than that.
Someone that was like lunging at people. That's different than like walking by on the street and seeing like someone being erratic and then walking across.
Once again, I don't recall any threats or like, yes, he was in a train, so he was like in front of people.
You're being silly now. Sorry,
I'm really not being silly. Like,
you are. We discussed it and it was explained to you already, so it's cool. I'll go on to the next topic.
Oh, sorry. Before then, did you have anything else, Ali, to say? Yeah.
No,
I just meant me.
Okay, then let's go on to Corey, and then counterpoints, then Gibbs,
I think counter was
and
first.
then counterpoints first. Okay, counterpoints,
and
and Corey,
and may I have
Gibbs,
been a very
and
good boy.
Vince.
So, okay. Number one, we do extend this level of charity to civilians. The perfect example is Breonna Taylor's boyfriend. The reason why he's not incarcerated right now is because the law enforcement and state attorney's office deemed that under an adrenaline out situation, that it was reasonable for him to believe that the house was being invaded. He fired guns at cops. He injured cops. He is not in a jail cell because the state's attorney's office extended him that level of charity. Also, we do this with like domestic violence murder, like heat of the moment murder. So basically, if you catch your partner cheating and then you kill the other partner, or you kill your partner, then this is a mitigating circumstance that's calculated during sentencing. Do we extend this level of charity to civilians? My answer, particularly as somebody who lives in a red state, is 100%. Now, I get in blue states, you're used to having like homeless people and schizophrenics like all around you talking shit about how they're going to fucking murder you, and you just have to take that. In a red state, you don't have to do that. In a red state, if somebody's talking that shit, then basically, one, you can be kind of like mindful of their presence, but two, if they fucking step to you, you can fuck them up, and there's no jury in a
red states you have to deal with that. What are you talking about? Whether you're
San
in Florida,
Francisco,
whether
New York?
you're in Texas,
You were
whether
just
you're in
talking about how
wherever
New York is filled with fucking homeless people, schizophrenics who are talking shit all the time. You said
so
that earlier.
in Florida isn't, or Texas isn't?
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
I mean,
but if they
well,
say
not in
some
the blue
loud shit to
cities.
you can fuck them up, and the juries aren't going to convict you of anything.
that's true.
And this is a good thing.
Yes.
Yes.
Standard ground
All right.
state is a good thing.
Then anyways, sorry, I still have a couple of points I want to make before we move on. So adrenaline, you default to your training. I agree with you. I think an important point is that Daniel Penny was probably trained 500 different times in order to apply a blood choke and 500 times to apply an air choke. And he was never taught to go 0% or to monitor the person's thing. But he was also training with other recruits, and he was taught not to injure other recruits while he was doing that training. He also likely did grappling as a part of his training. So all I'm trying to say is I'm not going to judge him. I'm not going to judge Daniel Penny off of this standard of use your brain in adrenaline out situations. I'm saying that for the audience. If you become a law enforcement member, if you become an EMT, if you become a firefighter, if you become a military member, then when you're adrenaline out, when you're in the red, when you're in the black, you need to use your brain in order to get the best outcome for everybody.
Wait, Connor, real quick.
Yeah.
If this guy is a military, what is he? Marine, or what is he?
He's a former Marine, yeah.
So he's used to being in high stress combat situations. You're telling me he was adrenaline out being on the subway with a homeless guy yelling?
Yeah, dude.
Nobody goes into
hold on.
Check the group chat, Ollie. Check the group chat, Ollie.
Hold up. So number one, I'm gonna answer this question dead honest, okay? And I'll skip my last point. So number one, just because you're a Marine doesn't mean that you deployed, doesn't mean you went to a combat zone. It doesn't even mean you have a hardcore job. He could have done what I did. He could have done a paperwork job. He just probably got good training, right? And then number two, training does not make you a fearless automaton who is capable of responding perfectly in every adrenaline out situation. What it does is it inoculates you to stress and adrenaline. So instead of shitting your pants and crying, you can choke somebody out. Now, choking somebody, so in combat, shitting your pants or crying, probably not good. Choking somebody out can also not be good, but it's preferable, right? So, sorry, this is the same point, but I just want to make this clear. Military service members are not perfectly emotionless, fearless automatons. They are people who have been trained to use their fear to turn it into anger and to turn that anger into action.
So just a quick response, and again, back to what I was saying previously. My friend Majin, who was a bouncer, right, and I think he does some sort of fighting before. Anyway, he says any fighter learns to keep their emotions in check when fighting. We have people all maxed out in combat sports. We see people breaking people's arms all the time, right? There'd be a lot more serious injuries, but just being in a stressful situation doesn't mean that you're allowed to do whatever. And you can just say, oh, well, you had training. That training says that this is what you're supposed to do. And even if you fuck it up, there are no consequences for this. Like, that's not an excuse in and of itself. I think it could be a mitigating circumstance if you really think your life is in danger. I think that's definitely the case. But to say that he's not liable in any fashion under any applicable law feels like too much. Let's go to our friend Corey.
Quite an opportune time because I want to address a question to Lactoid, but I'll try to maybe kill some time. So, like, yeah, I'm pretty conflicted myself in terms of, like, I think everyone's on the same page. Like, it was reasonable to intervene. But where I'm also conflicted in terms of, like, is that use of force, like, justified, or was it excessive? As of right now, I lean towards like it seems excessive, but I also understand the point of, like, adrenaline and, like, training, and so I don't expect you to necessarily know, Lacto, but as someone with legal knowledge, and I don't actually know if this is true, but is it true, let's say, for example, that, like, a trained boxer is held to a higher legal standard when it comes to violent acts, and that they can't just, like, defer, like, well, it's adrenaline, therefore I can knock out whoever I want if violence is instigated?
It's ultimately going to be a fact, up to the trier of fact. It's not, like, really a legal question. So the question, the jury's going to be considering, like, do I think this person being a boxer should have a better knowledge and a better understanding of how much harm I could do to somebody with my fists? And if I was on the jury, I would think so, honestly, right? If I'm dealing with somebody who has no training whatsoever, and, like, I watch a video of them, and, like, they're trying to, like, get control of the situation, but, like, they're just fucking shit up. But, like, it's a very heated situation. I'm going to be more forgiving of that than if it's, like, somebody who's trained, who knows what they're doing, knows exactly what's going on, has been in the situation many times, and, like, still fucks up, and, like, still drops the ball and does something that's unreasonable. Because then the question comes in my head. It's like, well, like, why? What, like, if you knew, if you should know your, like, the limits here, or you have a better understanding than most people, why would you do this? Again, I mean, I think the fact that he's a Marine, I actually think works against him a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. That's why, like, the training thing. That's why I use the trained boxer of, like, I agree the training hurts, and that's why I think I slightly lean towards, like, the fact that they're a Marine. I don't like the adrenaline. Like, I have no experience with these types of situations, but, like, to me, it doesn't really fly as much if you're trained to some extent. Like, I like the example that you gave. I can be more charitable with someone who has no training whatsoever in terms of, like, they have no idea how to use force, and they're just doing whatever they can to, like, survive. That's how I analyze it.
And just to be clear, like, my position is, I fully acknowledging that the training is probably working against them a little bit. Having seen the video, having, like, seen some of I haven't watched every day of trial, but having seen some of the information, I still think it's reasonable force, right? Because the question is, what would happen if you let him go? That's the thing that comes into my mind. Because controlling one person, especially when they're bigger than you, which Neely was bigger than Penny, is incredibly difficult. Controlling a smaller person than you is incredibly difficult. Controlling somebody bigger than you, like, maintaining a complete, like, hold on them so they're not going to get up and harm somebody, is incredibly difficult. This is why you see, like, 8 cops all tackling one meth head who's, like, masturbating while fighting them at the same time. And you're like, how are these 8 cops not able to get this guy under control?
I don't want to see that video.
One of his hands, I've seen it. One of his hands is busy, and he's still fighting them off, and he's butt naked. He's running around, and they can't. Like, 8 of them.
I want to see this video. It sounds like
This is why you see this shit. You see this shit because, like, controlling somebody who doesn't want to be controlled is extraordinarily difficult. And so my question is, when you finally got somebody in a position where, like, they are, like, somewhat stationary, I'd be desperately afraid of, if I move anything and they jump up and act as they were acting before, am I going to be what's on the menu, right? That would, and that's what I'm thinking of when I watch that video, and that's why I think Daniel Penny probably got acquitted.
Let's go to Gibbs, but Lactoid, drop that video in my DMs. That sounds like
I'll look for it.
This is actually a perfect segue into what I wanted to say. Neely is bigger than him, right? Like, it's a lot different than me. I've got, like, I'm 350 pounds. I go up to, like, the skinny crackhead, and I use wrestling. I put him down. I can probably stay on top of him, not a problem. For everything we've seen, it took they're holding this guy down for 6 minutes. 2 other people are in there, like, holding this down with him. He's struggling, right? I would even argue that Prime is going to really hate this point, that they didn't use enough force early on. This is a situation where if he had maybe choked him out initially and he actually put him to sleep, this guy might not be, might still be alive today, because during that struggle for 6 minutes, he might have injured himself. He might have gotten free, injured other passengers. If you don't use enough force in a situation like this and act quickly enough, you can prolong and cause more damage to the person that's acting up, causing more damage to the individuals around him. What if, like, one of these other individuals has gotten injured? Who's going to be liable for this? What if, like, a passenger got injured? Who's going to be liable for this? If they had put this guy to sleep initially and just made sure he's breathing after they went immediately went to sleep, then they could have maybe taken care of this guy, got him proper medical help. He'd have been fine. Instead, this guy struggled for 6 minutes, and every time they had to restrain him harder again, they risked the chance of re-injuring him or aggravating a previous injury. That's more damage. Like I'm just saying, there's situations where maybe the more humane thing would have been to put this guy to sleep immediately. That's why cops have tasers and stuff. Instead of continuously struggle, let's put this guy down. You know, like it's like then we got him down, then we put him in the car. We start doing. That's why when people are acting up, sometimes they'll call in EMTs to give them sedatives so that they calm down. Same concept. You get them in a situation where it's totally resolved in their limp. There's no more threat to themselves, no more threat to everybody around them. I just vehemently disagree that all chokeouts evil. Like I just don't see it.
I want to specify. There's also a dispute as to the time. The prosecution was alleging 6 minutes. Penny's team was alleging less than 5 minutes. The video is only 3 minutes long, so it's a little bit.
Well, less than 5 minutes still seems dangerous. All right, we're going to go to Vince and then finish with Grid. Give him the last word.
I had a question before, but it kind of got answered. I didn't watch the video, so I'm not really knowledgeable of this. I would have to see the video. I saw people's reactions to the court proceedings and whatnot, but I didn't see the video myself, so I don't really have an opinion on it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting video to watch. It's kind of hard to find now, but I mean,
I believe I watched it previously, but this is a while ago. This happened. It's like 2 years ago. I don't know.
Here, if you know, find someone named Doobie, and you can have access to any video you've ever wanted to see in your entire life and more.
Doobie.
Or Lactor gets his masturbating videos.
Let's go. And we'll let our friend Grid do the final word, and we'll get on to our previous topic.
So I like what Counterpoint had to say earlier, that honestly, if this had been in a red state, that guy probably would have he'd have been dead a lot sooner. And the fact that that he had a chance to live was very fortunate given his circumstance. He didn't make it, and that's okay. He caused that problem. Penny didn't walk into there asking for trouble. Penny didn't walk in there saying, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to put a dude on the ground and choke his ass out. So, and that's, but yeah, in a red state where I live, that guy would have made it. First of all, he wouldn't have had two people holding him down. I'm just put that bluntly as I
dead.
can. Yes.
Which, by the way, I don't think is true. I don't think you just kill homeless people because they're going crazy in red states. You guys are vastly exaggerating the ability.
I mean, the problem is if you hold on, Socio, I'm trying to answer you, bro. Calm down. That has actually happened. There's actually, I mean, there are cases where somebody has attacked somebody, maybe just being crazy or whatever, but they get shot. That's just the way it is. It's interesting because Counterpoint, when I came in and Counterpoint was talking about what the police do, what the police do is nuts. I was talking to a friend of mine who's a cop. I don't think he's a cop anymore. He was just about at the end of his rope on it. And he was talking about, he had to literally sit there, and this guy had a hatchet, and he was just waiting to see what this guy was going to do with the hatchet in the middle of the road. And he's like, dude, put the hatchet down. Put the hatchet down. I don't want to do this. I'd rather take you to jail. And eventually it did resolve itself where he didn't have to shoot the guy. But I couldn't do what a cop does, because to be honest with you, the minute you threaten me with that weapon, dude, it's over. I mean, I'm just telling you.
So hold on. Sorry, this is actually.
I do want to hurry up. Go into
okay, yeah, this is important. So one of the things though that I think Ali's pointing to is I'm with the red state guys. The default always goes to the person who's potentially threatened. So if that cop had blown away the dude with the hatchet, I wouldn't have cared. I would have slept just the same tonight, right? Yeah. However, I think it's okay to encourage people to be more empathetic and also to wear people down, because often what happens with like schizos, diabetics, all that kind of stuff, you can wear them down with boredom. I had a guy threaten me with a golf club. I just stood there with my pistol out for 5 minutes. He got bored. He put his golf club down and he went to jail instead of the morgue. You know, so you kind of you got to play mind games if you don't want to kill people.
Well, you were a good public servant,
let's
sir.
Move on. Yeah. Well, I like to think so about my friend Counterpoints. Yeah, I mean, I go from the standpoint that all cops are bastards, but that doesn't mean they're not good people. And Counterpoint's always been presented himself as a very good person. All right, so let's. I mean, it does make sense.
Okay, not a cop anymore, so
I mean, strictly speaking, you can be a bastard and a good person.
Justin. Yeah,
yes, you can.
If we're using like the old term of bastard, like Connor, how's your relationship with your father?
I know that's what Prime meant. Exactly. I know that's what.
Very average to below average.
I can explain it to you later. Okay.
I'm just imagining Counterpoints as Jon Snow now.
We're going to we're going to move on. Before we do that, guys and gals out there, if you've enjoyed the content, please help out. We haven't gotten many donations yet. So consider helping out. Magic B-Mac apparently gifted some subs at no, I think that was previously actually. But yeah, that wasn't today. Yeah, consider helping out the channel. Subs to the channel, gift bits or gift subs. Support this community. Use Amazon Prime / Prime Gaming here on this channel. Ammo gives. I give a gifting another sub. I do appreciate it, friend. But we do need your help. If you like this content, you like me having these guys on. We had two really good contentious conversations already. None of them were planned. Those weren't the planned topics.
I came in the middle.
But if you like that, then consider helping us out. We do need your assistance. And if you're on YouTube, consider using a super chat. We'll respond to your super chat. We're monitoring the super chats. So we'll give you a response. So help out this community so this community can stick around. We do need your help. Subs to the channel, give bits or give subs. Okay. Topic. Last week, the top executive at United Healthcare was gunned down by an assassin in Manhattan. It was a clear targeted murder. While we don't yet have a definitive motive, all signs point to revenge over denial of healthcare coverage by the insurer. In the wake of this high-profile killing, however, there has been a lack of remorse for the victim. Many have even shown support for the killer and have quietly been suggesting other insurance executives as targets. This incident has laid bare the anger that the country feels over the state of the health insurance industry. How do you feel about this death? Do you think that vigilante justice ever has its place? Even if you disapprove of the killing, do you think there is value in putting fear into the hearts of the powerful? And what do you think can be done to quell the clear anger the public has against the American healthcare industry? You guys all, I think everyone watching knows, has been following this, at least to a tiny extent. The healthcare executive CEO gets literally murked, on video, and the response has been either outright glee. Some places outright glee. Not too many. It just most is like a muted sigh of hey, this guy kind of deserved it. The world's kind of better off without him. Things like that. All right. And interestingly enough, it's come from across the political spectrum. From everywhere that you can think of, people have felt this way. It's been a uniting experience in maybe all the worst ways. So I want to talk about that, and the idea of a person taking the law into their own hands is that acceptable? I have so much to say on this, but first, let's go to our friend Lactoid.
Yeah. So normally I like to give my own intros, but today I outsourced that. I'm gonna actually read a Matt Walsh tweet that I think really encapsulates my view on this almost to a T. So I hope you all enjoy. Quote, I could at least respect the intellectual consistency if the left cheered for both the CEO assassin and Daniel Penny on the grounds that they both got rid of somebody who was a threat to the community. I wouldn't agree with that argument, but there would be a certain moral coherence to it. But instead, they cheer for the death of a CEO while crying crocodile tears for a psychotic vagrant who assaulted women. In fact, they condemn Penny as a vigilante, even while explicitly praising vigilantism in the case of the CEO. That's because the only real principle at work here is racial hatred. These assholes don't even care about affordable insurance or whatever. They just hate certain demographics and want them dead. That's all. I think that's pretty accurate.
Thanks so much. Let's go to our friend Scott.
Yeah, so if you've seen me on this show before, you'll know that I often, very often, separate what is justified and then what is morally right or wrong. I don't think that's, if you've been watching Prime with me on it for a while, you know that I do this when most people don't. So starting off with the justified, is the murder justified? Almost certainly. Assuming that what we know about the shooter, his family situation, his mother, what he went through, and specifically Brian Thompson and his work at United Healthcare. Brian Thompson was controversial even before this because their company developed artificial intelligence to attempt to screen whether or not they thought someone would fight back if they were denied without cause. At least that is what is alleged in a lawsuit. We will see. So dependent upon if that is true, apparently the failure rate was like over 90%, and they had tuned their AI to basically deny a bunch of people. Again, we don't know if that's true or if that's not true. That is just what one lawsuit alleges. And during this time from 2019 until 2023, denial rates skyrocketed from UHC. And it is, far more denial rates than other companies and services. I attempt to look into it to see if this was like, does United engage in like excess and surplus? They don't. It doesn't look like they engage in excess and surplus more than any other insurance companies. They're not engaged in any reinsurance to a higher rate than other companies. So it appears that the denial rates being so much higher is indeed just because either of this AI system or policy. And so it is likely that he committed fraud in many of these contracts, denied people that had a contractual obligation to pay. And at least some portion of them suffered greatly and or lost their life because of what he did. Now, of course, is this morally justified? And the answer is unequivocally no. This is immoral. The reason I say that this is unequivocally immoral is because what do you gain here? He gets his petty revenge, right? This person never stands trial, never, goes before that. It might even reduce his likelihood of being able to pay out certain victims, et cetera, because so many people don't want to reward the behavior of an assassin. Furthermore, it is so morally wrong because what will change from this? Let's say, the left who, cannot stop being hybristophiles and cannot stop being sexually attracted to a crazed gunman. Let's say they get what it is that they want. And what it is that they want is more of the problem that caused this. The reason that insurance is so fucking scummy and full of fraud is because it is the most government regulated socialist industry in America. It is far more regulations in healthcare than in any other business, apart from very small niches like, stem cell research or things that do not have a large overarching part of our economy. That is why pharmacy care managers, that's why health insurance companies are so protected. Because even if he got his day in court, he wouldn't face trial for fraud in like have his life forfeit like he ought to under a capitalist system, under a free market system. These companies don't have any meaningful competition because it's almost impossible to get into this industry without millions upon millions of dollars of investment just to deal with all the legal red loopholes. So it is absolutely morally wrong because all he did was get his petty vengeance so that he can fight for larger regulation that will cause more people to suffer, more harm to come. And the only true answer to this is for us to deregulate health insurance providers, doctors, hospitals, pharmacy care managers, and also bring these people into court when they commit fraud and make them face the punishment beyond just a slap on the wrist of fines, because these people are paying off the same politicians to give them the regulation that they wanted in the first place.
Thank you so much, Corey.
I'll try to keep it brief. Okay, so I agree with some of the That's not a shot at you. I say that pretty much all the time.
He says it almost every time.
It's a coincidence that I'm always after you. Okay.
Yeah.
But I agree with some of the sentiments that Scott outlined in terms of like, this is morally bad, not justified, not good at all. But I think that, and sort of coincidentally, not coincidentally, but like, I guess strangely enough, Louis Rossman published a video 3 days ago titled like, "What will you be remembered for?" Speaking to this topic, like he shares his thoughts and pretty much the similar sentiment of like, this is not good, this is bad, but you should ask yourself the question of like, what does it say if like, there's millions of people cheering you dying? There might be something there in terms of a signal, despite the fact that like this is not justified at all. Just as I think Scott alluded to, of like, this is not morally justified, but there is some justification there, so to speak. And in terms of like overall, like how I feel as of right now, given the limited information of like, was it actually targeted? Assuming that's the manifesto, like I'm sort of of the similar opinion of like, not morally justified, but he doesn't seem like a great person. But I'll leave it there for now to be brief.
Thank you so much. Let's go to Vince next.
Me?
Yeah.
So as you guys know, I'm a real life vigilante, but I agree with Scott said on this. I don't think that we should be gunning down people in the street like that. It sends a bad, like, you'll see a lot of people online, these keyboard warriors who sit in their bedrooms all day, be like, yeah, eat the rich, this is awesome, real life assassin. Like, meanwhile, at the end of the day, what are we supposed to have? A system and a society where it's just Fortnite Royale and survival of the fittest? And if they're screwing Americans over via the court system and the medical system, shouldn't we fight them in the court system and have the intelligence to do it that way in the proper routes, rather than wait for them outside a hotel or wherever he was in the streets of Manhattan or Brooklyn and shoot him in the back? I don't think that's necessary. I don't think it's right, and I think it sets a bad precedent for our, society and how to combat this.
Thanks so much, Admiral Gibbs.
Murder and assassination obviously are tools of those who want to use fear to get their will accomplished. Mobsters, cartels, and now leftists have decided to embrace these things. First, they tried to get Trump. Now they're trying to harm the productive members of society. Next, it will be anyone who disagrees with him. This man is clearly a product of the leftist brainwashing centers we call the Ivy League. They might as well be called socialist or communist re-education centers. It is literally a social contagion that we have on our hands. These people believe similar things to this shooter, are in essence advocating for slavery. I mean, holy hell, folks, in his manifesto, he glorified the Unabomber, and yet they chilled. They believe they are entitled to other people's hard work and tax dollars. The fact this person gets cheered on so much online shows these people's true, vile colors. None of these people want to take personal accountability and expect other people to pay for their own life choices or issues that are uniquely their own. Instead, they want to live off the sweat and tears of other people's brows. The end result of this is that they expect doctors to work for free or at taxpayers' expense. The alternative is that they actually have to work and provide for themselves. And lordy, we know that's not going to happen. The idea that they'd have to personally be accountable for their lives is so abhorrent to them that they'd rather glorify and sexualize a murderer and dog whistle for other hardworking Americans to die, therefore cutting off more people working for these people. I don't fucking know. All I know is these fucking leftists are trash. Don't dog whistle for other people's death. Don't glorify this murderer, and stop getting brainwashed by this bullshit Ivy League.
Gibbs, even when you're against me, you're my fucking hero. Okay.
Thank you.
All right?
Appreciate it.
you're
Is
just
this
awesome.
the leftist versus rightist issue? Is this really what it is?
Well,
It is.
We'll get to it in a second.
I think so.
We'll get to it in a second. Let's go to our friend Ali. Yes, please.
I don't know. I get it. I feel like if these people is paying no insurance, and then their mom's suffering, and then now they're suffering, and he touched on a few things in his which is like we're supposed to live in this civilized society where it's like, to Vince's point, like if they're beating us in the court system, shouldn't we go and beat them in the court? Like we can't. No one listens to the broke people when it comes to these types of situations. It's just
So
the
not
poor that
true.
end up suffering.
Okay.
Keep going.
Yeah, so no one seems to like care. You're not going to be able to beat these people in court. It's kind of like a lose-lose situation where it's like we're kind of expected to just everyone gets to just talk shit and do whatever they want and inflict all these types of like pain on you, but the reaction has to be civilized from you, even though you have pain inflicted on you. It just doesn't make sense. Not that it's good. You shouldn't be going around killing people in the streets, but it's like, to Corey's point, one, a bunch of people are cheering it, but two, someone felt like they came to that point. They had no other choice to get their relief. So if people can feel like, we were talking about if you're stressed out and with the adrenaline pumping in a train, I'd imagine being stressed out with your adrenaline pumping while your mom is suffering. So, I mean, I get what he did. I don't think it's right, but we justify other killings, so why not?
Ali, I'm gonna need you to calm down. Would you?
Yeah.
You chill.
Give it a hand.
Yeah. Just relax, buddy. All right. Okay. All right. Good. Thanks so much. All right. Move on. Don't worry. I got him for you this time. Great.
Oh, you ready for me? Okay, I thought that you were telling me that you had
I did
all
get
under
him.
control for
and now
me,
it's also your turn.
doing me a favor there. So I appreciate that too, because Ollie's a problem. I don't know what's going on with him. That's a joke. It's a joke. So first of all, how do I feel about the guy's death? I mean, bad things happen to bad people. Sometimes the right guy gets dead. Do you think that the vigilante justice ever has its place? Absolutely. This country was founded on vigilante justice, and we're going to continue that streak. Unfortunately, we don't see enough of it these days. Even if I disapprove of the killing, which I don't, do you think that there's value in putting fear into the hearts of the powerful? Absolutely. A good, healthy fear of the government, of the citizens by the government is a very great and noble thing. And I think that we've lost that. And that's one of the reasons why bad people like Mr. Thompson could do what he did, because he could get away with it and nobody's going to do anything about it. And then lastly, what do I think can be done to quell the anger the public has against American healthcare industry? Simple. Remove the idea that you have a right to any and all healthcare that you desire. We remove the enablistic government that we have. And honestly, if we could just stop Democrats from shooting people, we'd be in much better position. And that's, I think I covered everything. If I didn't, I'm sorry. We'll come back to it.
Before, there was a time where I had a dearth of right wingers here, but this is I'm liking this. This will be a lot of fun in the future. Next, our friend Counterpoints.
I'll be brief. To quote the famous law enforcement officer Jake Peralta, cool motive, still murder. And that's pretty much it. This guy, it was released later that he's a Ted Kaczynski stan. He's like a anti-modern industrialist. I like Uncle Ted, but I also think he's a fucking lunatic. So yeah, we'll talk about it.
Okay. All right, and we're into it. Anyone want to jump in?
So Gibbs, do you doesn't this put fear into the powerful, which could be the government, which could be any officials that now see, they can see this as if you fuck with the civilians, they'll come for you.
I'm pretty sure the security budget for all CEOs is
hold on. I want to answer this, right? There's a difference. Fear can be useful to, like, deterrence is a useful thing. Sure, deterrence. Mm-hmm. Here's the difference, though. Fabian and all the people that said deregulate this industry, that's the real evil people here. The politicians on the left that have sat here and acted like healthcare is just this human right, those are the evil fuckers, right? They've sat here, they brainwashed you, they've sat here and tried to get you entitled and what's the word I'm looking for? Enslaved. Entitled. Is the word I want to use to the government. You're enslaved to the government because they're expecting the taxpayers to pay for. Just listen.
Wait, is United Healthcare free?
Hold on. Sociologic. Yeah, hold on. Sociologic. Let me just issue something, right?
He wants to because it's all
say that you get genital warts. And you're expecting my
that went a whole different direction than I thought it was going to go.
Say you get both. Why should I have to pay for your rampant debauchery and
I literally didn't say
bad
any
choices
of this.
with women? I mean, that's the problem. That's what people on the left
Is
over here are
United
advocating
Healthcare
for.
free or is it private healthcare?
Well, okay.
Just answer that question real quick. Wait. Just real quick. Is it free or is it private healthcare?
We wouldn't even
private
need
healthcare.
I don't think
It's
this is
private
a left-right
healthcare.
issue.
No. Ali,
Okay, so it's private healthcare. So this guy was
two
not
different
sucking on the
conversations.
leftist tit. He
He is
was
sucking
not
on the leftist
able.
teat.
He was paying for his health
sucking
care
on the
for
leftist
years.
teat.
So
Yeah,
he
he's
was
sucking
a
on the
worker.
unclear.
He was working. He was paying into it. So everything you just said, Gibbs, out the fucking window.
No, wrong.
No,
Because
why wrong?
All this could be
United Healthcare
gone
isn't
if
taxpayer
we just got rid of it like this whole thing in the first place. All these regulations, we wouldn't need this insurance bullshit. We wouldn't need something. We could just pay for it out straight out, and we'd all be better off.
Hold on, Ali.
All right, go off, Black.
Take care of itself.
There's two different conversations. So first of all, Scott's right when he says this is like the most insurance generally is the most regulated industry like in America.
Sure.
And the level of control the government has. I mean, name me another industry where the government gets to set your prices, where the government gets to set like what policies you provide. I mean, that's how insurance works in America. I mean, they literally the insurance commissioner of states like is directly involved with like how
it is the fourth arm of government.
Now,
to be fair,
now what you're saying,
in most other countries, isn't insurance like a government thing?
Well,
like
sure. Health insurance.
How many countries like in Africa you think got
most civilized world countries, whatever?
Yeah, he's talking about Western. I'm following. Yeah, we're talking about Western specifically with healthcare. Yeah, now other countries don't have like government provided car insurance and shit like that.
Sure.
But the two different conversations happening is I'm a little bit confused actually, Gibbs, where you're coming from because. The left. Ali is saying, "Hey, this has to do with some kind of like anger at United Healthcare specifically because they like violated its contract or whatever." I'm a little bit skeptical of that. I understand that a lot of people think they're entitled to everything, and especially if they have insurance, I think they're entitled to everything.
They're paying for it.
Now, I'm a little bit, I guess, biased because I do insurance defense, but I'm telling you, like, insurance oftentimes pays out when they don't necessarily have to. And there's this like looming threat of bad faith lawsuits that compels insurance to cover a whole bunch of shit that it really doesn't make sense for them to cover, but of course they have to. But Gibbs, when you're talking about, well, how we keep the people happy is we deregulate it and we get rid of like the right to it. I think the people cheering for this are like the lefties generally who like despise the fact that they have to pay for anything, let alone healthcare, right? They hate the fact that they pay for healthcare. And so they would be wholly opposed to you on this. And if we're like, how's that going to make them happy, right? If we, the only way they're happy is if we give them free shit. And you're saying, well, stop giving them free shit and then maybe they'll be happy. No, that's not what they want. They want all the free shit.
I'm saying fuck these people. That's what I'm saying. I don't think you understand. I'm saying what they want is evil.
I get where Gibbs is
now,
coming from.
how do we stop them from shooting us now? That's the second question. Now we say fuck them. How do we stop them from shooting us?
Now they're playing your game. Listen, Democrats learn. Now they're playing your game. Now they got the guns, right? They're getting the guns. They're going in their little states.
I mean,
literally, they're having their fun now.
Let me doing this in the middle of Houston. They're not doing this in the middle of Houston.
No, they're doing it in blue states. Listen, in the blue states, we do it right in the streets, baby.
Let me calm this down a little bit. So
I like it this way.
Right? So when we're talking about whether or not Brian Thompson was a piece of shit in some of the company policies that he did, if the lawsuit proves, and we get discovery and it does indeed show that under his reign of terror as CEO of United Healthcare, they implemented AI that they had tuned to specifically deny claims based upon information of whether or not they thought they would fight back in court. That is tantamount to fraud that absolutely led to death of people. And he is someone that ought face, can't now, but should have faced justice, and that justice would likely be hanging from a noose. Nevertheless,
but what?
The reason
I disagree.
The reason that fraud, absolutely. If your fraud leads to the material,
I mean, people died because of that.
Operating good faith,
right? And the government knew that. The interesting thing is that. Go ahead. Go ahead, Scott.
But here's my issue again: is that I agree with you, Gibbs. The motivation behind so much of the celebration here is not what caused this problem. It's why democracy is retarded. because people are retarded and they don't have any idea how any of this shit operates. They're just happy to see a rich capitalist get capped. That's all they give a fuck.
That's a lot.
They see they see a super
A
wealthy
rich
dude
white capitalist
get his just desserts because
you can't tell me that was a black CEO they'd be celebrating the
hog.
same way.
But and I agree that Brian Thompson as an individual,
it'd be a racist then.
if the court records are a problem. But the problem is what is the solution? And the solution from most of the people that are celebrating this assassination is more government intervention, which is what created the fertile ground for corrupt crony capitalists or cronyism, whatever term you want to use, to abuse and use this system to protect themselves. The government comes in and sets your rate of profit. And then these companies can't keep up with inflation. So what do? They come up with new ways to fuck you. And they come up with legal loopholes. And then they pay off politicians so that the politicians that give them the regulations that they like are the ones that empower. And the free market is incapable of competing or engaging in any way because the people that make the most money are the people that bribe the politicians and bribe the right ones. That is the problem. And so, yes, I agree that this guy likely, assuming what we know about him to be true, I don't know if it's true or not, but I assume that he probably deserved justice. But the way that you enact said justice through vigilantism in this regard is just going to cause more problems than it solves. And if it's causing more problems than it solves, then why the fuck would we celebrate it?
Because the alternative is not doing anything at all, which is what has been happening.
No, it's not.
That's what was happening.
I disagree with that.
This dude is wealthy. He comes from a wealthy family. He's got like a 140 plus IQ. This dude could have told his story and devoted his life to doing what we could to fix this. But instead, this fucking cowardly little bitch decided that he was going to grab a fucking gun and make himself feel better. The only thing that's going to happen is that he's going to make it worse for everybody else.
Activism achieves almost nothing.
No, that's not true. That's not true.
Activism is done. You would have just become Greta Thunberg and become famous for being an activist. So what?
No,
what would have happened?
Okay, so there's different types of guerrilla political warfare besides shooting someone in the street.
Yeah, I know.
People commit vandalism against politicians' houses. They try to shed light. What happened like a year ago when they dumped all the trash?
You don't think this shit is happening forever? Do you think this is like? Do you think people that we're just like today? We're just like, I'm gonna shoot a house of people.
It's worse than killing humans. That's the thing.
Escalating to shooting someone in the
I'm saying there's no result, and when people don't see results, they resort to the most violent action or the loudest action that they think they can see.
Sociology. He did not do this because he wanted to fix the system. He did it because of his own ego. He was out and engaged in assassination so that he personally.
Yeah, but the result is a conversation. But the result is bigger than his action. The result is a conversation that's bigger than his action.
Let's go to. Okay. I do want to get
going in the wrong
direction. Scott, sorry. Let's go to counterpoints. Let's go to grade. I want to step into as well.
Actually, counterpoint was first. Let him go.
So I said that. I said counterpoint.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry.
Just FYI.
No problem.
So first thing, I worked in the insurance industry for 4 years. I still technically do. I work on the opposite side now for contractors. I will tell you, it is a monstrous system in which people make claims, and then what the insurance company will do is they will take a snow shovel and they will throw 70% of what they think your claim is worth to you in the first 2 weeks. And then they hope that you don't come back and you never read the contract. That's how insurance companies currently operate. And then if you do come back, then what they'll do is they'll make sure that you have a pretty close to accurate estimate. There's, of course, fluff with contractors. I'm talking mostly about property insurance right now. But the whole point is that it's a game of investment in cash changing hands that if you ask somebody to describe it, it would probably take about 45 fucking minutes. I feel zero sympathy for anybody, particularly in the health insurance industry, who thought that a good way to make money was to fuck people over. Fuck him, okay? That's number one. Number two. When it comes to this idea of healthcare as an entitlement or a privilege, okay, I am firmly against the rightoids on this, all right? I want a healthy, happy, productive society. I am
too.
a wage cage slave.
Amen.
I will likely die a wage cage slave. If I am going to dedicate 30 to 40 years of my life to make the American economy work, like seriously, it's a third of my life. I'm going to spend a third of my existence making the American economy work. When I get cancer, I want to be able to get fucking chemo. Okay? If I get a fucking cold, I want to be able to go to the hospital. If my children get a serious disease, I want to go to the hospital, have them taken care of, and not have it bankrupt my family. That's what people are pissed off about. And so instead, what I hear from you guys, the free marketeers or whatever, is you know why insurance is the most heavily regulated industry on the fucking planet? The reason why is because insurance companies are effectively engaged in a financial investment Ponzi scheme where the more money that they get to keep, the more money they get to invest. Therefore, they're financially incentivized in order to fuck over their fucking clients. So no, zero sympathy. There are free market failures. Insurance and healthcare are free market failures.
Get him, Scott. Get him.
Did you know, real quick, did you know that 15 times the people die on waiting lists per capita than they do from lack of access to healthcare in America?
Whoa.
Where? What are you quoting?
I mean, the UK's got that. I know that's a big thing.
There's several studies.
But on top of that, hold on. Here's something he forgot. He's going to glaze over is that he wants slavery. He wants to say, he goes, I don't want to go bankrupt. I expect
taxes.
Guys.
Why do I have to contribute to society?
No, hold on. Let me explain what's going to happen. Let me explain what's going to happen.
I spend 100% of my income on cocaine.
Okay, you can yell over me and mock me in this voice all you want, but like, sure, okay, you can say that all you want, but I'll give you some real points.
You're the straw man that Lactoid and Fabian pretend doesn't exist.
Yeah, sure. Listen, Papa, that's cool. That's cool. You can argue that. Like, listen, I know that you're mad because I called out your fake republicanism and we exposed you for the fraud you are.
Yeah, but you know what makes me fucking happy is the fact that you eat so many cheeseburgers and you do so much cocaine and you're probably going to die in your fucking 50s.
I will be, and I will contribute more to society. I will contribute more to society at that point than you in your entire life, and you've done a lot. Isn't that something?
Oh, either way,
it doesn't matter, Papa. It doesn't matter. Hold on, I was like, you're the one who's going to. Okay,
did you serve in the military, Gibbs?
I don't care.
Did you serve in the military?
I don't care.
Did you serve in the military?
Listen, did you serve at Chokamai last week in the Thai restaurant? Because you can choke on my dick. I don't give a shit. But like, here's the point. Jesus Christ, bro.
Did you serve in the military?
Did you serve in Fremunda?
Gibbs, did you serve in the military?
Did you serve in Fremunda?
No, Gibbs. Did you serve in the military?
Because you're acting like you're from underneath my nuts, bro. Either way, calm down, bro. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, this is what you sound like.
Hey,
now you're
did you serve in the military?
You just over here slurring.
Did you serve in the military?
Shit, though. I don't care.
Did you serve in the military?
I don't care. I'm still.
Okay, so we gotta move on. We gotta move on.
No, I didn't serve in the military. But it doesn't matter. You're still a bitch. You're still a bitch.
Did you serve in law enforcement?
I don't care. You look at how you're acting. You won't even let me answer.
Did you serve in law enforcement?
Okay, he didn't serve in law enforcement.
Cry me a river
Did
more.
you serve as an EMT?
Didn't do that either.
I never sucked dick either, but you clearly have. So what's your point? I don't care, bro. I'm not judging you. You don't know what I've served as a teacher. I have been a teacher. That's not the point.
I'll wait for you to stop, but then I'm going to tell you what I think of you.
Calm down. Cool. Go ahead. I don't care what you think.
Gibbs, you had your chance.
I haven't even got to talk. I mean,
oh my God!
All I'm doing is getting asked questions, and I'm not even getting to respond here to all his bullshit. He's sitting there advocating for slavery. I'll tell you what's going to happen. If all these doctors,
you don't even know how to decide socialism, communism, or slavery,
and you don't even know what a Republican is. You've been sitting here saying you're a Republican for months, while sitting here taking money from Progressive Victory and taking it up the ass. But I'm not sitting here arguing about anything. So why don't you just shut the fuck and listen to my
Republican? You fucking retard.
Define bitch. Look it up. It looks like you. Hey, anyway,
I'm almost as big as you. I don't give a fuck that you're 350 pounds. Consuming cheeseburger fucking ass.
You're the one who just started it. I'm just here trying to make a point.
Everyone's gonna stop talking right now.
So make your point so I can go on a rant about how big of a piece of shit you are.
Hold on. Okay. one at a time, so that we have to move on. Like, we have very little time left, and there's a lot I want to say, other people want to say as well. Okay, all right. So good. So, sorry, Gibbs.
We gotta stop doing 3 topics before our big ass topics like this. Just
hold on, wait. You guys want? Okay, hold on. You guys, all right, anyway, whatever.
This could have been a one topic.
Oh, calm down, Ali.
Calm down. Point, and then I would like to respond.
I was waiting for a reply.
Gibbs, go ahead, and then counterpoints you can respond.
Hold on.
And then we're gonna go to Grid.
All right.
Yeah, it's very simple. What he's advocating for is slavery, right? He wants these doctors who go to all this school, they go and start operating on all these people, doing all these services for basically either free or at the taxpayer's expense. He's saying, oh, I'm entitled to all these other people's hard work. You know, I don't necessarily not want what he wants. He wants his family to be able to go and get cancer treatments. He wants these things. Cool. I say, that's great. You should be able to do that, except you should have to pay for them. I shouldn't be on the hook for all your family's bullshit. And it's really that simple. I don't understand why that's so evil, but you're going to say, oh, we live in this society. But you know who else says that? The Joker. It's ridiculous. I'm not going to sit here trying to act like George Costanza or like, oh, we're in a society. It's such a ridiculous argument. The only person you're beholden to is you and then possibly your family. I shouldn't have to be paying for other people's mistakes or other people's ideas. And then when you do all this regulation, all you do is create a socialist society. Fabian's absolutely correct on that point. All this regulation is just allowing the free market to be injured and like not have a real free market. It's just destroying it. It's all bad. And I'll just keep going, but I'm just excited.
Are road workers slaves? No. Like,
hey, sorry. No, we gotta keep going. Counterpoints. Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is why if my son asks me whether or not he should be a first responder or a law enforcement officer or an EMT or a teacher or anything like that, I'm going to tell him probably no, unless you're doing it for yourself. And the reason why is because Admiral Gibbs is representative of a large chunk of America, and he's a massive, selfish, dumbass, ignorant fucking piece of shit who can't define slavery, communism, socialism, or republicanism. He's politically illiterate. He shouldn't even be on this fucking panel, let alone running businesses. And by the way, an elementary school teacher does more in a semester than you will do in your entire life. And I am so fucking happy that your bloodline is gonna fucking end with you. I'm so happy that you're snorting up your wealth. Jesus. I'm so happy that you're putting it in fucking cheeseburgers. I'm so happy you're killing yourself like the hedonist fucking retard that you are. Because you think that because you run a business, I put my pants on one leg at a fucking time just like everybody else. You think because you're in charge of a bunch of businesses that other people work at in order to make you money, you think you're the God all be all of everything? You can only work 60 to 80 hours a week just like anybody else. You're not special. And if anything, you prove that success in America is accessible to fucking retards. So I can't wait for you to not use your health care because you shit your fucking life down the drain so fucking fast.
Do you have an argument?
If anybody take advantage of healthcare, he made it for you. If a retard can do it, they can do it.
Okay, sorry, great. So we're moving on.
I'm gonna outlive you by 40 fucking years. Right?
You can't touch him.
Hey, counterpoints.
He's
got
counterpoints.
Hey,
Prime. They got to respond to that.
Everyone, I don't care. Stop it. You have to get your duck in. Stop it. Okay, let's go to Grid, and then I'm gonna go because I want to say stuff before the end of this. Grid.
Protecting.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, that's cool. So I agree. I actually agree with a lot of what Scott says. The way the government and insurance are in bed together, it's incestuous, and it's created this perverse, not free market, not government run. It's just this kind of weird entity where people pay into it their whole lives expecting to get something out of it. When they need it, they don't get it. Whereas other people who don't pay into it hardly at all get everything they want. And it's all about knowing how to check the boxes and all of this other garbage that has nothing to do with getting the healthcare that you need. And this is a problem with the system to begin with. It's a problem with the system currently. And it's going to be the problem with the system because nobody has the balls to create anything better. And most people are just ball washing anyway. They just say, oh, I don't want to pay my money, whatever. But if you actually believed that, you would cancel all of your health care and you would start putting money into an index fund and you would pay for your own health care. But you don't. You pay lip service to it, but you don't fucking do it. So who cares? The reality is that you're just as bad as the next guy.
People don't want to pay because when they pay, they feel like they don't get a result for the thing that they're paying into. So they can't cancel. They can't just cancel their health because whatever little healthcare they do get wouldn't. I mean, you did. I'm great. That the average American can't.
Okay.
These people are making minimum wage. They aren't making much money because they can't afford to.
Why can't they afford to?
So where they work doesn't.
Well, I'll just keep asking why.
I want to jump in. So I'm going to jump in. I'm going to do the thing.
Sorry, that was all I had.
No, that's fine. And
send the panel, by the way.
I'll be willing to. Lactoid and Scott afterwards. Okay. So, to do the thing that everyone else did, right? Violence, not the answer. I don't want to encourage this kind of system, but at the same time, I have very little remorse for this particular individual. I think that, however, our society reacts wildly differently to different forms of violence. What the people of America have been suffering from United Healthcare, but from others as well, right, is organized corporate violence. Right, that's okay when that happens. When men in suits, right, decide that we're going to take your money, not provide you any service for that money, and that will result in a death, right? You being unable to afford care or a family member, and so that they die. That's violence. That's a violence, right? It results in deaths, but we react differently to that. I guess that part's okay.
Civilized.
Yeah, it's a civilized form of violence from some people. Even though it results in death, surely like any other would. So I think that's an issue. And I don't think we are just celebrating because this person is rich, right? And Scott was saying that previously. I think that's part of it, absolutely, 100%. I know that's definitely a portion of this. But no, I think the fact that this feeling has been so universal is because it's insurance, and people across the political spectrum hate the American health insurance as it stands, even if they wouldn't want to go to some sort of socialized situation. So I definitely disagree with lactoid. Right, that's ridiculous. No, it's been across the political spectrum, everywhere, from people in all age brackets. Right, having just young lefties online, right, typing out how much they hate. No, it's been everywhere. It's on Facebook, right? Geriatric Facebook. The people responding within the groups, right? In public messages, right? These all have been older individuals, and they know because they've had to deal with American health insurance the longest, right? And as they age, they're dealing with it more than people in their younger years.
I mean,
they know.
What's more socialist than an old person on Social Security? I mean, let's be honest.
Well, there's that too.
Also, just real quick, old rich white people die all the time, and we cry as a country. When Paul Walker died, we as a nation felt that. So just let it be known. Just because someone's rich and white doesn't mean we're happy that they died.
Absolutely, 100%. Rich white people die all the time, and we don't celebrate in the way that we celebrate here, right? It's ridiculous to say that this is a left versus right thing. We can see in right-wing media channels people saying, "Hey, I'm happy about this." Right? So let's knock that out.
I met Paul Walker at the Pikes Peak.
What's a disgusting? That's a really perverse. So we have the manifesto. We have something that people are claiming to be the manifesto. We don't know for sure. Yeah. In the manifesto, for those of you who read it, it's on Twitter. I'll put the link in chat. But within the manifesto, he talks about, or someone is talking about, how their mother came down with a condition, neuropathy, and they were drained dry by the insurance company and hospital visits and all that. And then he says that he has some sort of issue too, that he might be developing the same issue. And also to back this point up, on his Twitter, he put up a picture of a spine that looked like it had like a hardware inside the spine. I'm not sure if I sent you guys that, or maybe I saw that in a later article. Yeah. So it seems like that might be true. In any case, right? So if we'll take that to be gospel now, let's say that it is the manifesto, and these are the reasons why, right? The United Healthcare was denying their claims and all that, right? And it was entirely too expensive. A truly perverse outcome of this is that, well, now that he's arrested, he gets free healthcare. That in America, if you want to get that level of care,
accurate,
well, then get arrested, go to prison, right? In fact, a lot of the homeless people use the American prison system as a form of healthcare because they can't get it at all. This is the society that we live, a perverse, disgusting society. I am not in favor of vigilante justice such as this. This is wrong, right? However, we should I don't want vigilante justice. What I do want, though, is the powerful to be afraid, to be conscious of their actions and how they affect other people. The way I want that to happen is to have a robust regulatory framework with enforcement powers.
That's what they want.
And so
that's what all the rich and powerful love. You want to give them money on a silver platter.
And you
that's real fear.
Don't worry, friend. I've already put you on the list. You can make your point later on. So a robust regulatory framework where when they break the law or they are in misery in society in some particular way, we can ensure consequences on them. The powerful have no consequences. They have none at all. It's very rare that people of their class actually suffer for what they've done. And even then, in this particular case, it's institutionalized, the kind of misery that they're inflicting on the rest of the world. And so there is no effective response. No, like becoming some sort of protester, right? Activist isn't going to do it. It's not going to have the same effect. He was never, this individual, Luigi, let's say he is the one who did it, right? He was never going to have the same effect. This national conversation, this international conversation people are having about the American healthcare system happened because of the violence that he enacted. It's a shame. I don't want it, but that's because he did that. Why don't we try? I would try something different, and to ensure the healthcare of our nation. I would try something different. Now, I'm not. The point of this conversation isn't to argue for socialized healthcare or which system is better. I would really like not to get distracted with that part. It's just saying these are the reasons why they did what they did, and I think it's a failure of our society when people feel that this is their only response. All right, let's go to Lagtoid and then Scott.
I got a couple things written down. I take issue with some of the things that you said, Prime, and some of the things that other people have said. I think that the celebration here is primarily left wing. Sure, you could probably find some other people who have celebrated it. I think that their celebration probably comes from some kind of latent left wing belief on this. But the people that I see that are overwhelmingly in favor of this are like the hardcore lefties, right? I mean, you go to the hardcore lefty, like, meme accounts, look at the people who are out in the streets. I mean, these are by far lefties, which would make sense given the kind of animosity and hatred these people have for CEOs. And when it comes to, you brought it up and it was discussed before with Gibbs as well. And so I do want to address this slightly. When you say, well, it's a civilized form of violence, when you can't afford care and that results in death, that this is actually a form of aggression. I want you, and I know this is going to just be hard to do, and it's going to feel like loaded, but this is just how I think about it, right? Imagine a scenario where somebody might die if they don't have sex with a woman. If they don't have sex with a woman right away, they're going to die. Okay. Here's the question: like maybe they'll end their own lives or something along those lines. Does this need therefore now create a right to this person to the use of this woman's body? And if no.
Can I make a quick correction? I'm sorry to interrupt you. I do apologize.
Okay.
It wasn't that they simply can't afford care, and then that's the violence. It's that they paid for the care, paid for the service.
I'm getting to it.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. So I'm talking about the people who are generally in favor of like socialized healthcare or socialized any government service, right?
Okay.
Because when Gibbs calls it slavery, this is what's being described, right? Which is that when you assert that you have a right to this because you have a need, the assumption is that you have some entitlement to this thing that this other person has. In a woman's case, in this case, would be her body. And if we all agree, well, no, you don't have a right to use somebody else's body. That's ridiculous. Well, why do you have the right to use my body then for your relief, right? Regardless of what my skill may be, whether it be building houses, whether it be crunching numbers, whether it be providing healthcare. The exact same argument follows. And so all of this is based foundationally upon coercion, upon slavery, and that's why the allegation is that it's slavery. As to the contract question of, well, you already paid for it, and now you're not getting it. I take a little bit of issue with this characterization. I mean, the contract question was largely unknown until this panel. I mean, people were stopping to read it. I know I was sent to me and I read it during this panel, and people have been celebrating this for a couple days now. There could be some kind of like right-wing position here or some kind of entitlement position here, but we also don't know how accurate the telling of this is. First of all, we don't even know if it's legitimate or not. But it seems odd that we're going to take the gospel of a guy that just shot a guy in the back and apparently his family's rich as hell. And he went to an Ivy League school, and he actually went to private school before that. And so this concept of like, well, his family couldn't afford this, I struggle a little bit. Like you own country clubs and golf clubs and resorts,
millions of dollars of shit,
and you went to a private school, and then you went to an Ivy League, and you're saying, well, they couldn't afford it. I'm a little bit skeptical of that claim. Now, again, you can give this guy ultimate charity and say this is the case, and say everything he says is accurate, and say there's some kind of like contractual a right here or like argument here. But this has nothing to do with, for the past several days, people have been cheering on the death of this guy specifically because he's a healthcare CEO, and healthcare CEOs deserve to die because they are the gatekeepers.
I got a hard out in 3 minutes, and so I want to answer Lactoid's hypothetical.
Okay. And so they're the gatekeepers of this care that otherwise would be provided, but that's not necessarily true. But go ahead, Connor.
Okay. So I'm partially meaning I'm partially being sincere. We'll figure out what the details are in a second. Okay. You're saying that there is a man. Let's just call him Muhammad, or let's call him Ali. Okay. I heard Ali is a really common name in the world. Okay. And Ali says, I need some pussy or I'm gonna fucking eat a gun. Okay, I am just hurting so
really
bad
calm down,
for some
Ali.
pussy right now. I'm about to fucking shoot myself in the face. Yeah. And then I got a friend named Gibbs who's a multi-fucking millionaire, and he's got so much money on his fucking plate, it's crazy. Okay. Now, what I would do, and what I would encourage my friend Gibbs to do, is I'd be like, hey, my boy is Ali. He's about to fucking eat a gun if he doesn't get some pussy. Can you take him to Vegas and y'all can party and hire some fucking hookers? That way my boy doesn't fucking dome himself. Okay. Now, this is a purely voluntary society. Okay. Now, this is all hypothetical and like a analogous or a metaphor, right?
I got a response to where I think you're going, but keep going.
If Gibbs says, fuck you, fuck Ali, I want to spend this on cocaine and cheeseburgers, then I'm going to say, Gibbs, one, you're a piece of shit.
Well, that's not what I would say.
If you're such a piece of shit that you won't go party with Ali in fucking Las Vegas so he doesn't kill himself, then I might have to send the state to your house to compel you to take Ali to Las Vegas.
I'm gonna help in this situation. I'm gonna pay for the ammo.
Gibbs, hold on. Connor. What you're doing is I presented like a philosophical problem, and you're abstracting it to something that people are already okay with to make it easier. Let's get away from that. Let's say that for some reason there are no women that can be paid to have sex with Ali. The only way he's getting laid is if you force. Hold on. The only way that Ali's getting laid. Hold on. The only way Ali's getting laid is by gunpoint. You force a woman to fuck him. Are you doing it?
No, obviously not.
But it's okay. But like, why?
Why?
Yeah. Why?
Yeah, because I mean, I would just dealing with a situation instead of like trying to figure out the metaphors or whatever. It's because I think sex is as sacred as death. So I would never compel somebody to die against their will. I would never compel somebody to fuck against their will.
Okay. I think this is like, in my
but doing
mind,
a job. Hold up. This is one of the things.
Sex work is doing a job.
Me off. And I got a minute. I'll listen before I go. But this is one of the things that actually pisses me off about this scenario. Okay, so death and sex, I agree, are like extreme parts of human life. I don't think work is an extreme part of human life. And what I mean by that is I am compelled by nature to work. I have to be productive in order to eat food. I have to be productive in order to have a family. I have to be productive in order to pay my bills. I am currently being oppressed by nature. So when you're saying like, oh, the oppression, the compulsion, to me, society oppressing you is just another extension of nature. All it is an extension of human nature.
So true.
Okay, so just to be clear, I'm going to finish up real quick. Work and sex is the same to a sex worker. And we're talking about the use of someone's, it is. We're talking about the use of somebody's body. Again, I understand you're putting sex on this different, and I think a lot of feminists do as well, put sex on like this different pedestal. But in my mind, your own labor and your own body and the products of that are just as sacred as your own body when it comes to sex. And
that's so dumb.
Because personal autonomy is like the foundation of a individualist worldview. It's the foundation of our
individualism
society.
Is wrong.
Of my society. Oh, I understand this. Well, you're okay with individualism when it comes to sex. We're just okay with individualism when it comes to everything. That's the difference.
Right.
You have a special category. So you are a libertarian. You are a libertarian only for sex and nothing else.
Right. So let me explain this. So I am not a collectivist and I'm not a libertarian. Okay. So you're saying that you have a rawly individualist line, which is why that you have this morality that you do. Okay.
Well,
I do not. Okay. I am persuaded by a fascist argument of all people who say that you are not born as an individual. Babies are not individuals. They are extensions of their family. They are reliant upon healthcare workers. They are reliant upon doctors. They're reliant upon their mother. They're reliant upon their father. You also do not die on an island either. There are healthcare workers that are going to help you die. And if you're not a fucking piece of shit like some people I know, then family members are going to help you die as well. So this whole thing that you're an island, I never said that. Flies in the face of reality.
I never said that. I never said that you're an island. I think part of individualism is consensually interacting with everybody else around you and recognizing that you do live in a place with other people. You've been contradicted. Like you are a libertarian when it comes to sex work, but you've also contradicted yourself before. You just said, you have to work in order to put food on the table. Well, you believe in a system where you don't have to work to put healthcare on the table. You also need food to survive.
That's incorrect.
Hold on.
Fundamentally incorrect.
In your society, let's say I don't work. Should I get free healthcare from the government?
Are you able-bodied?
Let's say no.
Are you okay? If you're disabled and mentally incompetent, then sure, you can be entitled to healthcare. If you're able-bodied and mentally competent and you don't work, then you shouldn't get healthcare.
Why should I get free healthcare if I'm disabled?
Because you're fucking retarded and you can't help it. We take care of our invalids in a civilized society.
So the argument is then that you have to work, you have to struggle, and you have to work to put food on the table.
Why are you picking on that instead of the fact that I'm saying that able-bodied people should be productive in order to be entitled to the fruits of society? Why don't we focus on that?
Okay, let's focus on that. How much do you think you should have to work throughout your life to qualify for this free healthcare that you're describing?
I would say probably your entire adult life after the age of 18, probably up until the last decade of your life.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you're describing Medicaid and Medicare at this point.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, you're not describing Medicaid because I think you get that no matter what. You're describing Medicare, which is that you work and then you get it, right?
Yeah.
So what's the? What are you advocating for? Just keeping the current system?
I'm advocating. This is exactly what I'm advocating for, which should be obvious to anyone who doesn't have a toddler's understanding of politics. Productive human
A lot of
beings.
big brains here today. A lot of big brains.
Productive human beings take care of children, the old, and the invalid by being productive. Their taxes ensure a civilized and healthy
What if I'm way more
society.
productive than
And
you?
it is better to have a limited amount of compulsion through taxes than to live in an anarcho-tyrannical fucking state in which everyone has their fucking autonomy, but you live in the material equivalent and moral equivalent of modern day Somalia. Anyone who is not retarded
how do you define
understands
work?
this.
How do you
It's only
define
on
work?
Twitch and YouTube
Well, hold on,
politics
so what is
where we have to
productive?
pretend that this
So hold
is
on, you wanted Harris to win, right?
I've
So
been
there's not like
waiting.
all the. Oh, you go, Scott. I'll be real
I've been
quick. It's
waiting.
fast. So like, if you did were not productive in what you're working for, right? You wanted Harris to win. She didn't win. Does that mean for those years we're gonna take off? I don't know, 4 years of your Medicare because you weren't productive in that 4
You're
years.
too stupid to understand my
I-
point. And on top of that,
I understand
you
your
would be
point,
better
but-
off.
Yeah.
You would be
Right,
better
hold on,
off.
counterpoint.
Check and see if you're
In
bald
Dude,
or
dude,
not, bro.
Gibbs,
Hold on.
Gibbs,
I'm
calm
gonna
down.
leave your point.
I'm gonna
Like,
leave.
So,
I'm gonna leave, but I wanna make a
counterpoint.
point.
Dude,
If
dude.
balls,
Gibbs,
purse. Come on, yeah, we got it.
Guys, come on. Let me ask
based on
Counterpoint
your-
something. I really want to
based
ask
on
him a
your world
question. Come
perspective-
on. Let me
Based
ask
on
him a
your world
question.
perspective, okay, Gibbs,
Mhm.
you would
Based on our world
in
perspective.
Somalia, you don't
In
have to
Somalia.
pay taxes to anyone.
Yeah,
As a matter of fact,
so
if
probably
you
a
have
lot higher, a lot
guns,
of people to shoot
if you
people,
have
not
guns,
like Somalia.
if you have
I'd be
guns
probably pretty
and
good
an
there.
armed private security force, you don't have to pay for anyone's health care.
bet. That's
You don't
true.
have to pay for their water. You don't have to pay for their food.
Sounds
You don't
good
have
to
to pay
me.
for their health
Okay,
care.
guys, let
better
me.
than America,
I
basically.
would really like to ask
I'm wrapping up my
Counterpoint a
point.
question before he has to
I'm wrapping
go.
up my point. If Admiral Gibbs wasn't a
Becomes a
fucking
real admiral.
pussy who doesn't
right.
have an elementary school understanding of politics, then he would
Yeah.
liquidate
Says
all
the guy
of his
with a degree
assets
from
and
DeVry
move to
versus a real degree.
Somalia.
You got
but
me.
I guarantee you, I'm going to be on a fucking panel with Admiral Gibbs a year from now because he's
Listening
a
to his
fucking
ITT
pussy
tech
who
takes.
doesn't
We got it.
understand the
Yeah, we got
impacts
it.
and
He's the smart one.
consequences of his own ideology, and so he's
Ah.
too much of a fucking
I don't
coward
understand it.
to
Mhm.
move to Somalia after liquidating his fucking assets
Right.
and hiring private
Why would I do that?
security.
I'm making plenty of money
Good
here.
fucking luck, you fucking pussy.
Yeah, got it,
Horrible
yeah.
to see you. I hope you
Good.
eat a dick.
Wait,
All
like
right,
good one.
hey,
Oh,
good. That's good.
So,
That's good. We call that running where I'm from.
Yeah, so I've been
He had to go lick
patiently waiting,
around with
hoping that-
Pinoch. That's all I'm saying. He's a little bitch.
I think it's
Yeah,
unfair to
I've-
like compare
hold on,
Somalia. I
Hold
mean,
on.
Well,
Hold
I mean,
on.
he makes a
So,
good point.
I can say that he wants
Somalia
to.
is the most
Okay,
libertarian
all right,
country
I've
in the
been-
world.
I've been-
Sure.
all
Oh,
right,
you
hold
want
on,
Soviet
hold on.
Union then,
No.
right? It's kind of bullshit.
Let's go to Scott. Scott, please.
Okay, so first of all, Somalia is a warlord, failed nation state. It's not fucking libertarian. That's retarded. And if anybody had, what was it, a quote, beyond an elementary understanding of politics, and they weren't a retard, they'd understand that. You know, I waited patiently, hoping the counterpoints wouldn't run like the little progressive victory paid bitch that he is.
He
But
does have
since
children
he
to take
decided
care
to
of. But
I mean, we found his balls
but
right here. I
he
found him.
decided to engage as much as he could and milk the fact that he was leaving so he could make a bunch of asinine arguments and then duck out. So I just want to say a few things about, you know, that and farm.
call
So
it
James
bitchitis.
Lindsay has been on this this crusade about identifying the quote unquote woke right. And I have been somewhat critical of the way in which he kind of blasé uses this, you know, to to define people, right? So like, well, what is the woke right? And once you understand that woke is really just a placeholder for engaging in critical theory praxis or policy positions and argumentation, right? I think I have never seen a more perfect example of the woke right than counterpoints arguing those who do not work shall not eat as a means of his argumentation, which is obviously in the Bible describing, you know, the fact that man as a nature has to has to work in order to eat, but is of course these exact justification that Lenin used for forced labor, or from someone saying, I'm not an individualist, I'm not a collectivist, which is hilarious because he believes that there's some marriage between individualism and collectivism, whilst giving an argument about how we are a collective, we are a collective, we are a collective, we all depend upon the collective, and I have every right to take away your labor and your money for the needs of the collective is just collectivism. He's just claiming that he isn't. What's even crazier is that he brought up the fact that nature is coercive. And because nature is coercive, that means that society and government has a right to be coercive against you in order to have the altruistic thought or feeling of correcting the imbalances of poverty or disabilities, etc. And the reason I think that is such an interesting argument and crazy coming from Connor is that the most famous example of that is in the Communist Manifesto, is that because nature is coercive, we as a society and a government have a right to coerce you into labor and to giving up your property. So, I mean, what we saw was him just spew socialist rhetoric over and over and over again, and then claim he's a Republican whilst also taking money from Progressive Victory to ensure or to fight against Donald Trump getting elected so that Kamala Harris can get elected. I don't know if I've ever seen someone that is less of a constitutional conservative, right-wing individual. But no, he does have some right-wing ideas in terms of culture, and there's a name for that. We don't actually have to reword it. We don't have to call it woke right. We don't have to call it like the new Republican Party. We can just call it what it is: fascism. Right? Connor's a fascist. I know the left loves to call everything a fascist, but when someone is spouting why we need massive market regulation for the what's that?
Oh God,
the word's broken. Like it's not like I understand your argument, but the word is broken. There's like you
hold
can't.
on,
it's literal textbook fascism.
Because
I don't even think he denies it fully.
And they
even says partially.
He sort of hinted. He hinted a little bit at it.
I think he calls himself an authoritarian centrist.
Yeah,
it's kind of there. Yeah.
So I don't think he would fully deny that. Wow, what a revelation.
Well, he likes to claim this from the right. He likes to claim
I see your hands for Grid and Ali, but I want to make sure our friend Scott was done because you did wait a while. And then, sorry.
That was just me shitting on Connor. I'm happy to re-engage with the actual fucking arguments instead of him being a fucking woke retard.
Okay.
Well, I mean, he really just proved his whole point from the get-go. If any retard can get rich from being broke, then
Grid, Ali, and then yeah. Oh, also, just before you go, just so you know, we are past 11:30 p.m. Eastern, right? So 11:30 p.m. Eastern is when we end. This is for the new people here, right? If you need to leave, then you're not held. I don't expect you to be here after 11:30 p.m. Eastern. So if you have to go, that's okay. But we're just going to go for extra, right? I'm going to stick around here for a little bit. Then we can keep on talking. But if I got to leave, then it's fine. All right, so let's go to Grid.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I was going to ask Counter a couple of questions, mostly about, what does it mean to be productive in society? How do we measure that? How do we quantify it?
Details, yeah.
All of these nitty gritty little details, because, as someone that, without revealing too much about myself, but as someone who's paid six figures in income taxes for the last 10 years, it chaps my dick when people talk about taxes and who should pay more and who should pay less. It just does. I get really tired of it. And I feel like I paid enough. I paid your share and my share and that guy over there's share. And I'm sick of it. So
not mine. I'm in Canada.
Huh? What's that?
Not mine. I'm in Canada.
Well,
pay for your NATO protection.
We still send you money, bro. By the way, I really appreciate Canadians because they invented war crimes, and that way we can we have a clear definition on it. And not that you did, sir. You look fine, but
now you can put it all on my shoulders. Definitely me.
Yeah. I can't believe that guy. Does he really claim to be a constitutional conservative? That there was nothing constitutional.
Ever
I
since
think it's a little Burkean conservative, like an actual.
Burke. He likes Burke.
Yeah, because he's really
I
not
was
a
like,
conservative.
He started saying that recently.
Yeah, he started saying that after he like
called out
actual
for
conservative.
fucking- Yeah, after he got called out for taking money from Progressive Victory, he changed from I'm a conservative, I believe in the Constitution to I'm a Burkean conservative.
Well, it became real apparent.
That's why he went on that whole rant about definitions and wanted Admiral Gibbs to define Republican and conservative.
Okay.
That's his tried and true.
So I don't want to spend time doing this.
Yeah, as much as entertaining it as that is. So, look, the whole thing with the idea of a social safety net is offensive to me personally. And I think that most people that think about it for more than about 10 minutes should find it offensive. The idea that somebody can choose to not work and gain the ability to live a reasonable life is offensive to me. Now, does that mean that I'm going to like not say we shouldn't feed them or whatever? The fact that I find it offensive is irrelevant to the reality that we're humans and we must take care of other humans to some degree. But that doesn't change the fact that I find it offensive.
Yes.
But then again, I work hard, and I've always worked hard. So it's probably a matter of positioning, right? So yeah, I don't know. It's weird.
Just very quickly, when you say
Sure.
what is productive, right? The reason I said the devil is in the details is because that really comes down to, like, if you read your Mises, if you read your Hayek, if you actually understand economics, quote unquote, above an elementary degree, right, you will understand that the state is incapable of defining those things because there's subjective metrics, because value is subjective. That is why the market can determine what is and what isn't productive, because if you do labor and someone is willing to pay you for the labor, then it is productive, at least as far as the employer or the other person on the other end of the contract is. But the state, like, what is a stay-at-home mom worth, right? Is she being productive when she's a stay-at-home mom? Is she unproductive? Some will say one way, some will say the other. How many children does she have? Does she deserve a whole bunch of welfare because she has a bunch of children? Well, maybe she just keeps popping out babies because she doesn't want to go to a fucking job, and then other people are having to substitute her lifestyle. These things occur over and over again because you can't define productive centrally planned, because it's based upon subjective value. That's why capitalism is the only means that can actually give that, because it's the only means that allow individuals to choose what it is that they want and don't want. And it's productive if the person believes it to be productive and pays you for it.
Let's go to our friend Ali.
Okay, so like this is a screenshot of an Elon tweet where he's saying like the insurance companies are like any other company, have a duty to their shareholders to maximize profits no matter how ruthlessly. So like if the company has a like duty to the shareholder, wouldn't the best way to maximize profits be to show the duty to the people that are paying in? Because otherwise the shareholders don't get the money, or you get people or people like get killed. So if this like if this shot has a reaction to people either leaving United Healthcare, right, so now they're getting less money, or more CEOs potentially being, because like people are sharing CEOs and putting them on like wanted posters essentially.
As long as you have the government saying that you have to have X amount of insurance, or you as an employer have to provide X amount of insurance, and all of these other things. This is a part of that incestuous relationship between government and insurance. Government says, with insurance companies, you can only charge X amount. There's a limit. But at the same time, they say, every company in America, you have to at least offer to provide insurance, right?
Okay, I keep hearing that there's this like limit, but like if that was the case, then there wouldn't be insurance that people couldn't afford, and therefore people wouldn't have like reinsurance if there was this like ultimate
that's not
cap.
What it is. Sorry.
There's an important element that you're missing about the tweet, right? Which is when you say a duty, I think maybe I'm incorrect, but I think you're thinking like a moral responsibility, right? What a fiduciary duty to your shareholders is a legal term, right? And the reason it is a legal term is because public sector unions buy stock, and people that are right, so teachers unions, government employees, non-governmental organizations that are then also managed by the state have a certain share in their pension plans and things of that nature invested in these corporations. And if corporations that have their prices set and have all of these regulations don't find a way to make money, and instead end up going out of business, and they can literally be sued by the government for not engaging in the very same scummy behavior the government's supposed to protect us from.
So I don't think I'm thinking morally. I am thinking legally. Like if I'm purchasing a product, if I am a paying member to this insurance, whatever, I have a contract with this insurance company that I get this X amount of whatever coverage it is. But if I keep getting delayed and denied, which is like a tactic that's used by insurance companies to not pay for things, isn't that then a breach of like duty, like legal duty to then the person paying for the insurance?
From a natural law perspective, I completely agree with you. Like from a capitalist perspective, I look at that as fraud. I look at that as wrong, right? But when we use that term, What we're talking about, right, is the state's regulation of what they can and can't do based upon the fact that they must make profits.
So
and if they engage in behavior that would just, if they don't engage in profitable behavior, then the government comes.
Can we find some? Can we find some consensus building here, maybe? Right, and I know at least my friends above, maybe not my friends below. Like aren't fans of corporations, right? You guys aren't a fan of distributed ownership, right? So
I'm fine with corporations, so long as there's
I thought okay,
there's
well,
a single owner. It gets weird. I'm fine with people having investment on contracts that say that they'll pay them dividends, right? I'm not fine with like 1,000 people being a supposed owner of a business because a business can only be owned by one entity.
Okay,
now, granted, they can make contracts to pay people.
We'll have to talk about that later then.
That's really interesting.
It becomes a logical contradiction because if two people own the same private property, it's no longer private property because you don't have a right to exclude.
Yeah, so let's discuss that later. Then I was sorry. I thought that was I thought I had you pinned down on this one, but I don't. Looking at this tweet, right? So Elon Musk sends a tweet, and I'll read it out. I'm not sure if Ollie already did that.
I sent it in Discord.
Yeah, it says it's disgusting how everyone is turning this guy into being the shooter, a guy into some kind of folk hero. Insurance companies, like any company, have a duty to shareholders to maximize profits, no matter how ruthlessly. The radical left espousing otherwise needs to grow the hell up. So that's his response. And then Scott helpfully points to the fact this is a government a term, like a legal framework where we say that
fiduciary duty.
Fiduciary responsibility to do so. Can we say that maybe that's a bad way of organizing society? That there might be a better way, rather than making that the absolute priority? Because I mean, like our friend, not fuck Elon, but Elon is right there, right? He's correct in that that they have to do that to maximize profits. And so if that's the case, well, then everything that this person, the victim here, the CEO did was correct, right? If he is like driving up denials, right? As long as they can have a reasonable, plausible excuse for those denials, right? Maybe the AI he was training to do the denials, maybe that's just better, more effective than humans fighting out denials, right? Maybe he was denying a third of all claims, just kind of makes sense, like within the framework of insurance. That yes, you have that excuse. And again,
because part of a fiduciary responsibility is also a legal duty to act in good faith. If you're committing fraud and denying claims that your contract
let's say you should do, we don't know what was fraud. We don't know what's fraud. We don't know what was fraud, right? Maybe if we looked at all these, then, maybe with the with the innovation of the marketplace, he is using a tool that other firms aren't using, and he is actually finding the proper level of denials and then upping his the profits. The point is, so where I'm trying to go with this, right, is that there's a push, like our friend Scott said, to have returns for the shareholders. Could we say that maybe for this class of industry, that alone shouldn't be the priority, right?
No.
Now again, not talking about socialized healthcare, right? Not doing that. Saying private ownership, right? Insurance, just the way that we do insurance.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not an endless push to provide higher dividends for shareholders, right? And the only way you can do that is to drive profits higher, to drive up the stock price, right? Rather than doing that, we're saying that you can invest in this, right? And hopefully you'll get some sort of a return, but the goal of the company won't be to maximize your return, right? It will be to provide care in within the reasonable limits set by the terms of the contract of insurance. Can we at least find some common ground here?
No, I wholeheartedly disagree, and I'll explain why. Right, the goal of a company, right, so long as they are not aggressing. So fraud would be a form of aggression, obviously. Like, you know, going out and shooting someone in the back would be a form of aggression. I think we've talked about aggression enough. You kind of get an idea what I mean. So the goal of a company should always be, the primary goal, first and foremost, should be to make the most amount of profit as possible by any means other than aggression. And the reason that always should be the goal is that what is profit, right? We think of profit as like hoarding wealth or like some evil thing. What profit actually is, it is the reward that the capitalist has for land, labor, and investment, right? You gain land and you gain labor, and you put these two things together and you try and predict the future outcome. So if you're in an evenly rotating economy where everyone can tell what the future is, then under a free market, profit wouldn't exist because everyone would be able to tell the future. What the capitalist does is they attempt to innovate. They attempt to figure out what the price point is going to be in the future. And so what profit does is the profit motive is a means by which the capitalist tries to figure out what it is that people will voluntarily give up their money for, which means what it is that people value in their personal life as making their life better than whatever money they currently have. And it is the reward for figuring that out in the future. So it is absolutely the greatest moral good that a person can do on this earth is to make fuck tons of money and profit. And the reason is because the way they did that is they accurately predicted in the future what people value more than their own money and made their lives easier and better. When you remove the profit motive.
In this case, they value their life. They value their life, though, right?
Well, yeah, in this case, they value your life.
And to make that profit, then you have to deny coverage, right?
No, that's not true. That's not true, because if you're denying coverage and you're contractually obligated to do so, that would be fraud. However, how do you make profit? No. Let me finish. Let me finish. I'll explain. How would you make profit if you weren't going to aggress as a healthcare, as a health insurance company? The only way that you could do it would be to innovate, which would mean you'd need to find out data so that you could more accurately predict whether or not how someone's medical expenses are going to be. The other way that you would do it is that you would accurately more quickly find ways that people are lying. All of these things drive the price of health insurance down, making it cheaper, making it easier for people to get access to health care.
They are innovating.
That's what
they are innovating. We don't know that it's fraud, right? Look at me defending the fucking capitalists here. We don't know that it's fraud. So the denials have gone up.
I've already said if it isn't fraud, then
if it isn't fraud, okay, great. Then
this guy's
then we agree. So I'm running on the assumption that it's not fraud. You don't have any evidence that it's fraud. I don't have any evidence that it's fraud.
I mean, right? I have plenty of evidence that it's fraud, just not proof that it's fraud.
Okay, all right. We're not proof. Let me correct myself. We don't have proof that it's fraud. Insurance companies, one of the ways, yes, there are other ways to drive up profits, but one of the most effective ways is to get you to part the money, right? Because what you value is your life, and you know insurance can be useful for maintaining your life, right? You don't know if it will be, because you don't know the future. And so you're going to part that money, and then we're going to keep that money without returning it to you later on. However, the reasons why we can keep that money might be perfectly within the rules of the contract, right? If we simply look harder, right? If we parse it better, parse the claims better, and we parse our own rules better, right? We can find more and more reasons to deny more and more care.
Yes, good.
But it's
absolutely
the
good.
terms.
You should morally do that.
Sure.
It would be a moral arbiter of society, and I'll explain. The reason,
I don't need to explain. I don't need to explain.
Finish this point.
Well, it does need to be explained. It needs to be explained.
I don't need to explain. I got you.
No,
I don't need to explain it.
No, it needs to be explained. But for you, it's important. It's important. I can do this quickly. If there is no fraud that is occurring, and you find reasons to deny them that is outside of fraud, what that means is that that person either lied to you in their contract, lied to you in what they were trying to do and get covered, or that they in some way, shape, or form did not purchase that form of coverage for that thing. Now, if the contract's super complicated, I would say that goes into an unconscionability contract, and that kind of gets into the same area of fraud, right? But if you are finding someone that lied to you or that is trying to get you to part with your money as an insurance company for something that they didn't pay for, if you don't get rid of that, that means everybody else has to pay higher insurance premiums for their health insurance. You're fucking over everybody else by driving up the cost of health care.
Okay, so
I think Gibbs is trying to leave.
Sure, hold on a second. Because I wanted to hear from other people. Because we can't do this now. Of course, it's never easy with my friend Scott. So Gibbs, you have to go. I'd like to hear your answer. Can we form some sort of consensus building with the situation I talked about before, that maybe the shareholders aren't primary? You can invest in business, you can get returns from that business, but the goal of the business isn't to maximize the returns, and more especially when we're talking about healthcare, is to provide a valuable service.
All right, so let me just, when you say that, just so I have a firmer grasp on what you're proposing,
Sure.
You want like that, like regulated, saying basically that if you're an investor or shareholder, that the company's goal can't be product or profit driven, but you still could gain money from it if it is profitable. Is that correct?
I guess I think so.
So I would go with, I mean, I would be against that, I think, because I just don't see how that would work as a company. It sounds like it'd be like a nonprofit that you and hypothetically could make money from. I don't know. I don't know how that would work practically. I'm pretty against it, I think, at the regulation side, because it goes against the free market, really, in a sense. I think the market
fiduciary responsibility is regulation as well, right? So we're just changing that one responsibility to say that, like, and for this sector, right, being the healthcare industry, that it's to provide a fair compensation for fair services for your customers.
So this is really the problem I have with
that's
this.
Profit. That's what that is.
Well, hold on. There's really two parts to this debate, right? There's the insurance people like company, which are like easy scapegoat bad guys. Then there are the like medical professionals, right? And this is kind of why I wanted to get into this with Connor, but he kind of just freaked out and started asking me about slavery. For the record, people, since I am in higher education, we have a Black's Law dictionary. I could define anything we needed to if he wanted to really get down and the nitty gritty, but he's going to run. So that's the point there. So secondly, on that point, I want to go into the fact, like, on the medical professional side, I have this concern, right? We already see this with immigration, right? Illegal immigrants already go in there and they rack up bills, and these hospitals end up paying them, and the taxpayers end up paying them, right? And so it's basically you're getting slavery on these doctors if we didn't pay them for the taxes. So instead, the taxpayers are getting fucked. So then I look at it from what you're arguing, the insurance. Well, the insurers are basically like the representation of like the market in this case. So they're sitting here going, hey, this person does a need or a want, and whatever they got going on, we're going to determine beforehand if it's something we want to pay for because they've been paying this. Okay, cool. They actually need the surgery versus, I don't know, you want to go get big old jugs. Maybe you're a dick in large surgery. I maybe wouldn't be a fan of like the insurance like paying for that, right? Like, because that's probably not what it's there for, right? So
free market, baby. Put it in the contract.
If you put that in the contract, say like sure, then I would be okay with that, right? But like I don't think that's generally what the insurance is kind of like pays for.
I think it's a valuable service for society to have more big old jugs. So
I mean, listen.
For example,
I don't sympathize.
You can have a clause where if you get breast cancer cancer and you get a double mastectomy, that they'll pay for your breast cosmetic surgery so that you
But
can
you have to go up a size.
That would be like a premium thing that like would be very difficult, that that maybe you ought to pay more for that type of.
But the problem I'm having is it's like with this case specifically, right? It looks like this guy's family's rich, right? Like we've already talked, they're landowners, they got resorts. It's not like these people are hurting in any sort of way, right?
Yeah, his high school costs $40,000.
$40,000 a year. He went to like Penn State or University of Pennsylvania or something.
University of Pennsylvania.
Yeah, University of Pennsylvania. So that's also super expensive. Like when I'm sitting here, I'm just like, okay, I'm not buying it. They couldn't pay for this on their own. Two, it's like, why shouldn't you, if you're an insurance company, why wouldn't your duty then, like, why would you even go into that industry? I think what you're going to get is you're going to get people not wanting to go into this industry, and it's going to hurt them. Like you're going to get less people in the medical field. You're going to get less people wanting to be going to the insurance field because there's no money in it. So why would you not go into an industry where there's more money? I mean, like honestly,
that's literally happening.
I'm not trying to be facetious, but like I wouldn't want to go into the medical field. One, because it's overregulated. Two, like I don't know anything about it. And three, like on the like personal level, investment
Thank you
level.
for that.
But like, sure, like I'm not gonna act like I'm like could be an insurance provider and like figure out that mumbo jumbo bullshit. Like I don't want to invest in that. It's not something I would do. Like, but on the same side, like those are already barriers. And then now, if you tell me, hey, I can only make profit hypothetically if the company happens to be profitable, but not if they were like seeking to make ways more cost effective.
Isn't that the case
I don't
now?
know. Like, why would you want to invest in those?
You only get profit. You only get profit now from dividends. If you have profit, right?
Right, but the companies are like, they're able to sit here and go like do things more efficiently, right? They're going to have some kind of like metric. They're going to be able to provide cheaper healthcare, or they're going to provide. They have different services they sell you. Basically, that's the whole point of the insurance. Your doctors in network.
I don't know why my system changes all that much, other than saying that that's not the primary goal. Not that you can't it's
but
the
what
same
I'm
thing.
saying is it's a barrier to people investing.
It's like a
what
esoteric.
Happens, do we have AOC come in and go, oh, actually we investigated it and we have determined that profit was your primary goal? Like that is like
how do we regulate
that?
How do we regulate to make sure that profit is a company's maximum goal, that you didn't maximize profit?
Well, one thing before y'all move totally far away, I wanted to say one other thing.
Maximizing profit is how you give the best care.
No. That's I'm asking.
Well,
I'm saying you're saying how do we regulate that? How do we determine?
Well, just one last thing with that, like, and then I'll be done here. Is like earlier we were talking about how we argue about productivity and what work is, right? Like we were sitting here, like if you work all this time, and then I kind of like jokingly, but like semi-serious same time, brought up the Harris thing. So say you work in like a political field, and your candidate loses. Does that mean all your work was actually not productive? Was it like a negative? Say you work in like a lobbyist field, and you go and try to get somebody as like whatever, and then you're not able to get this law passed. Does that mean all your work's not productive? Say you're like a surveyor and you don't find any oil. Does that mean you're not productive? Like, I guess, like, how do you measure this productivity, right?
The market can do that.
The market can do that. And that's kind of what I'm saying. I think when you're putting these restrictions on this with the market and going, oh, well, hey, whatever, I don't think
I'm not putting restrictions on the market, though. But I don't think you understood what I was saying. But that's fine. It's fine. So whatever.
You don't want the company to make money, right?
I didn't say that. I told you didn't say that. I didn't say that.
You don't want them to be the driving goal. You don't want them to be the driving goal, right?
Okay, so I'm gonna. So let me try to quickly shortchange this, right, with the rest of the people here. Hey, does anyone think of our conservative leaning friends, right? Because I think I know what the other two I feel like. Do any of you think that the current there's anything wrong with the current American healthcare system, other than that it's too regulated, right? I understand that part. Too regulated. Gotcha, right? But in terms of the outcomes and like the general structure of it, are you all okay with this? And you maybe don't understand the anger that people are feeling towards it. Scott, not you, because you're going to. Oh my God, you're going to go forever.
I said in my opening.
Point me to the one that isn't caused by that.
Regulation the problem, though?
Yes, absolutely.
So like the way I'm
just come up with an example where the regulation.
So, oh my God, please.
I'm not educated on this as much as you guys, but from what I've been listening to,
none of us are educated on this.
Even Elon Musk tweet, he's like, "Oh, a business's goal is to maximize profit." is the
Actually,
is
Lactoid and I
healthcare
are fairly
insurance really a
knowledgeable.
business? Can you compare it to something, a business that produces actual products and actual tangible things? But then you might say, oh, well, it's not business in that regard. It's actually a service-based business. But like it's not the same as someone cutting your grass or like someone who actually
exactly the
provides
same.
value to your life. It acts sort of more like a bank than a service company, right? You give it money monthly, and then in the hopes that one day when you need it, it will give it to you. That's more like a bank.
Well,
So
so
to say
yeah,
that
it's like
sole goal
investment
to
is a
maximize
service.
profits, I don't believe that. It shouldn't be.
Well, so
rewarded.
let me give you an example that maybe is less charged, right, than healthcare, right? So one thing that is a service that is purely gambling and speculative, as we're describing, right, is futures on farm goods, right? So one of the things that farmers do is they have to try and figure out in the future how much soy is going to be worth, how much corn is going to be worth, how much onions are going to be worth, et cetera, right? And so when they go, because when they plant, they have to plant and then they have to wait for it to grow and then they have to harvest, right? So they have to figure out how much of each product they ought put into the ground and balance rotations, et cetera. And if they think that corn is actually going to go up in value, right, then they might plant more corn. Or let's say RFK is coming in and they're worried that corn syrup is going to be the new devil. So all of a sudden they're not going to plant as much corn. They're going to plant other things because they think they're going to get less money from their corn. Now, in comes this guy from a hedge fund and says, hey, look, I know you're stressed. And here's the problem. If you guess wrong, then you're going to lose money come harvest. But here's the deal. I think you're going to make $800,000. So I'm going to pay you $700,000 right now. But whatever you make selling all of these things, I get. So there's some nerd somewhere with autism that like looks at the news and looks at like the stock market and follows politics and does all of this shit that isn't the manual labor of farming. And he's better at guessing what in the future those crops are going to be than the farmer is. And the farmer no longer has to worry about the stress of what his potential product is going to be worry about losing. He can plant ahead of time.
So you're saying
that's a service industry that allows the farmer to produce more and more efficiently and allows him to make a profit because he's able to guess that it's going to make 800,000, not 700,000. Sometimes he's right, sometimes he's wrong, but enough times he's right more often than wrong.
I do want to hear from other people, please.
Is the farmer is like hospitals and the healthcare system, and then the nerd is the insurance provider.
Yeah,
right?
the farmer is the individual getting a life insurance policy, and they're the person going, looks like you smoke, looks like these are your cholesterol levels, looks like this is your family history, etc. I'm betting that this is how much I'm going to have to pay in the future. You just pay me a monthly payment and you don't have to worry about having all of this money squirreled away that you know in a bank account somewhere, because if something happens in 5 years, you might not have enough money in the bank to deal with it.
So I do want to hear other people. So if you don't have questions, then I just kind of want to move on. Lactoid.
Yeah, just answering.
Yeah, no, I understand. You were answering a question. Lactoid, you have.
I mean, most of the problem is regulation, Prime. But I don't know how you would fix this. The one thing that sticks in my craw about insurance,
deregulation.
If you could fix it, I don't know how you would do it. But if you could fix it, I think it would solve a lot of the issues. Which is that I don't like that insurance is tied to your employer. I don't like it that I can't just be like, fuck you. True. You denied me this many times and I'm going to go to a different company. And by the way, there's no state lines competition rules anymore. So I can literally go anywhere in the country and just buy an insurance policy from anywhere who will sell it to me. And then now I've got some real market competition, right? That's exciting. Because as it is right now,
it's just more expensive.
Well, it's I mean,
you
look,
go buy private insurance right now. It's just more expensive because businesses get a deal.
So I don't want to say it because I don't believe in it. But if okay, let's say Prime, gun to my head, I have to do one regulation, otherwise the world ends. I don't know, something.
Yeah.
I would ban discounts for large organizations. I think that would solve the whole problem.
You would ban discounts for large.
Go up, dude.
What? wait. Are you talking about only for insurance or like for everything?
So hold on.
But
gun to my Scott, I said gun to my head. Okay?
No, but only insurance or for like everything across the board. Say like, oh, I'm gonna be like a big organization. I'm gonna get a discount for whatever service.
Because you're buying in bulk, right? Like this is you are
I thought about
business,
this.
and
It's
so
economies of scale. It's
I thought about this, but like. I really hate this, but I think the sign of a good thinker is somebody who can like accurately or steel man a position that they don't necessarily agree with. So here's my response to that. Bulk purchases, I think, matter when we're talking about certain items, but when it comes to insurance contracts, it does like the same kind of considerations don't really apply. Right, we're talking about an insurance company who will apply, who wants to sell contracts, and when they sell contracts, it's not like there's shipping considerations, it's not like there's degradation considerations, it's not like we have to work out a logistics system of like which freight are we going to put on what, where, who, what, where.
It costs acquiring customers, right? And so now this person, the firm, right, the employer is giving you those customers in bulk, right? Like they're providing you. Like a pool of customers.
I understand.
Individual acquisition.
Why does that exist? Hey, Lactoid, why does that exist?
Why does what exist?
Why is it that so many businesses purchase health insurance in bulk? Why do they do that?
Oh yeah, that's a good point right there.
Because if they're a large company, they have enough bargaining power to negotiate a lower rate.
No, it literally started in World War II because they couldn't hire people at higher rates of profit, so they started coming up with offered people health insurance because the government had put in price controls on labor, and then afterwards they made that a law for companies with employees like over 100. It's literally, you just described regulation.
Hold on.
Regulation with more regulation.
Hold on. I'm not describing. I understand. I misunderstood your question. If you're saying why did companies started offering insurance in the first place, I understand that there's yes, it started a while ago, and then Obamacare made it required. I understand, right? But what I'm saying is that the question is, big company, why are the rates so much better at big companies as opposed to small companies? And it's because if you're a big company, you can say, hey, we got this many employees, you're going to get this amount of premiums.
Is that it? Is that it? You got to get learned again. You know what else you get when you're a large company and you do a bulk order of insurance? You get healthcare subsidies from the government. You are describing the government regulation and government socialism and the problems.
Scott's right.
I'm sorry.
No, Scott. If I had 500,000 employees, okay, and there's an insurance company looking to sell premium, sell policies, and I say you get the right to sell to my employees. The 500,000 of them or whatever, a policy, except here are my terms. Otherwise, I'm going to go with the competitor. Of larger companies, of course, have more negotiating power. I know you're saying there's government involvement. Of course, there is. I'm against this. Yes, and so again, gun to my head. If I have to pick one regulation, it would be to remove the ability for those kind of discounts because, and here's the reason why. I think what it would do is it would open up people because now the insurance is the same rate no matter who buys it. Now there's no incentive for me to stick with my company's insurance policy. If it sucks, I can go buy any other insurance company, insurance company's
twice
policy.
The price.
And well, you're saying twice the price, but I'm also a little bit skeptical of that because
I mean, assuming that you did what you said, if you follow the path you are going, that's exactly what's going to happen because there's no subsidies anymore, which is why the companies can provide that insurance.
Well, I'm good on that.
It wouldn't be.
Scott's not even in favor of subsidies.
Well, I'm not in favor of it, but that's the reality.
Who's paying those subsidies? Who's paying those
taxpayers? The taxpayers.
are paying the subsidies.
One of the things. One of the things you have to account for is that these companies are paying on your behalf, right? So when you get a health insurance policy, let's say you make $40,000 a year and it comes with what on the market would cost $1,000, right? And then they offer it to you for $500. They're paying the other $500, okay? So what's actually occurring is if you were going to go into the market, wages would also go up. So like, yes, you would pay more for health insurance, but wages would go up. And the reason the government likes doing this is because they want to, they don't trust American people to go out and purchase $1,000 a year health insurance plan. And so they keep it tied to your job because they know if you work that the company will pay part of it and you'll pay part of it. And then now we're incentivized for you to be on health insurance, even though you feel like you do or don't need it, because you're leaving free money essentially on the table if you don't get their health insurance policy. And that's how the government attempts to control behavior with subsidies so that this occurs more, with laws for larger companies. There's a much easier answer to if I was going to have regulation, right? Just get rid of pharmacy care managers. Like if you want to talk about fucking health insurance being a problem, it ain't health insurance companies. It's pharmacy care managers. Look into these people. They are 10 times more evil than any fucking health insurance CEO could ever be, and they're
pretty bad. They're pretty awful.
They're a million times worse.
All right. So then, I think,
but time. I mean, do you see the argument would be would be that if everybody, if you have to market at the same rate to everybody, what this will do is now insurance companies have to bring down the price for everybody to compete for the business of the big businesses. So, right now you can have an insurance company where they're going to charge, let's say, $200 a month in premiums, but they're going to make a special deal with big company A, where they're only going to charge $50 a month in premiums, and they're able to get that.
There's no way you could regulate
fucking everybody else. Well, there is.
You're just going to have a bunch of people without health insurance. Yeah, you're going to have rising healthcare costs, and then on top of that, you're going to have more people going to the hospital filing bankruptcy, and we're going to end up paying for it.
Yeah, even if you did get such a regulation put through, big companies.
That is a regulation for sure.
No, whatever. Anyway, even if you manage to get something like that to happen, big companies would literally figure out how to get a discount anyway, because it's what they do. It's just the way it works. Unfortunately,
well, they'll just find some other way to fuck us over.
Right. But let me tell you my real problem with health insurance overall is, first of all, I don't consider it necessarily actual insurance, because insurance actually pays when something happens, like automotive insurance. And when I bang my car up, I don't really have a problem getting my car fixed. When I bang my knee up, I have to dance around for 3 freaking days just to get somebody to answer me my call, and it takes 6 months to get bills that were due 3 months ago paid for. So I hate insurance in general, but I actually severely loathe the fact that insurance is now part of your salary, right? If you have an actual job, at some point you're going to have insurance as part of your compensation package. And I hate that.
It sucks. Yeah,
because if a job would normally pay you, let's just say $80,000, but they throw in insurance and a couple of other perks, and now they get you for 55 or 60, that's money out of your pocket. It really is. Because you might not use insurance for 10 years or 20 years, whatever. I just don't go to the hospital that much, I guess. I don't know. Maybe people use it way more than I do. But
lots of people use way more than you do.
Statistically speaking, most people actually, when surveyed, say that they like their health insurance plan. When you ask them about the industry, they say they don't like it. But when you ask them individually if they like it, most people like it, because most people, they just like go to the hospital when they have a baby, or like they just go for like minor shit and it gets paid for.
5% of the population uses 50% of the healthcare costs.
Ooh, right. And that's a bad crazy stat, right? And this is why I just hate insurance, guys. I would honestly ban the idea of insurance.
What?
It's gonna get worse.
You want to talk about regulation? Now that is regulation.
It's gonna be 10 times worse when Connor gets his socialism and Admiral Gibbs's cheeseburger and cocaine habits have to be paid for by the rest of us.
Yeah, that's what's crazy is that I'm willing to pay for my cheeseburger cocaine addictions. All right, but like, hey, you know what? If he has his way, y'all are paying.
I just don't. Good. Go ahead.
So Corey, as a resident, Canadian lactoid, we won't harp on you too much today.
People are actually believing that, by the way. I'm not Canadian. Multiple people in the comment section have been making fun of me for being Canadian. I'm not Canadian.
Absolutely Canadian. He's ashamed of it. And as he should be.
Because you have shame. So, okay, so I hear a lot of people talk shit about like the UK and Canada for their healthcare and how, you know, it's usually Americans and how you got, you know, if you get a paper cut, you'll bleed out before you get any coverage and all that bullshit. Is this like anecdotally, is there any truth that you
have you ever used healthcare in a socialized country? Because I have.
Yeah, I'm Canadian, and also
I'm about to say, like, I'm gonna ask the Canadian.
The Canadian. Yeah. Okay, so the overwhelming majority of my experience in the healthcare, and I'm a heavy healthcare user, someone with a chronic illness. Okay, that for like over 20 years, have been largely positive. Okay, I have had some negative experiences, of course, definitely. But overall, at least for me, from my personal experience, like I've had a positive experience. I've sometimes had to wait, and I've definitely had some bad experiences in the ER in terms of waiting. But I could also say transparently at that time, of the few times where I had to wait in the ER, I probably shouldn't have gone to the ER. But of the times where I actually need to go to the ER, and it was actually emergency, I was seen fairly quickly.
And then do you think that's like the general sentiment of like people around you, or is it like, or is our perception that like, you know, once again, you won't see a healthcare provider for years or months, like regardless of your ailment? Is that like more true?
I would say probably the overall actually sentiment of the healthcare, at least and also healthcare in Canada is provincial, so it'll be unique to the province of Quebec.
So France even has better healthcare, as they say, but you know.
Probably, I would say the overall sentiment towards Quebec healthcare is probably going to be like negative. I think actually the survey data back that up. Probably the majority of people don't like it, but it depends on like we have issues with the family doctors and access to family doctors, and depending on the specialties, some specialties, although I think there's moving out towards like a federal dental program.
To be fair, that's also true in America. If you ask them about the system, not about their individual experiences.
Yeah, exactly. But I definitely do know multiple people that like, in addition to myself personally, that like they are happy with the healthcare that they receive. Like I have a specialist. I've had a specialist all throughout the past 20 years, starting at a pediatric hospital to now adult hospital. And there have been times where like, I've needed healthcare.
Well, you're not too happy about it, right? I mean, because you have used private insurance multiple times because you knew that.
Yes, I've used it once that I and you only know about that because I posted about it on Twitter. Like I'm not hiding it.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, you're obviously not too happy with it. You know, you enjoy there being a private model.
I have a Canadian in my chat saying he hates the healthcare that he has received in Canada.
Well, as in he's been to every province and sampled the healthcare, or in his province of Ontario.
I think he used to be in the insurance. Hang on. I don't want to call him out, but
healthcare in Canada is pretty stupid statement because it's provincial.
He used to, I think, be an insurance agent as well. So, Farney, tell me what your deal is, man, so I can communicate. I was in China once, and I was a victim of their healthcare system, and I'm not a fan of socialized healthcare. So.
Is China socialized healthcare? I don't know. Actually, I don't know. I don't know. Gibbs?
Well, it's a communist country, so.
Yeah. Well, that doesn't mean it's social. What? Doesn't mean that's not how it means. Okay, whatever. Gibbs.
I know we brought up earlier some of like the callous things, like if somebody has something. I know the argument's been like, I'm not using. Why should I care? Why should I pay for it? I also want to bring up the social. There's something that. Yeah, something else that happens in like some
Barney's in Ontario. He's in Ontario. Sorry, guys, he's in Ontario.
Is that like, so I have some friends and they live in the UK, and they're what I would call hypochondriacs. And they go to the place all the time. They'll have like a sneeze. And they're like, oh, I have socialized healthcare. I can just go there. Or like, and they'll like literally come up with all sorts of I don't honestly think it's any better than the private healthcare that these people like the left is advocating against, right? The arguments, everybody should get all the treatment they want. Well, it's almost like you're encouraging these people to go like find something wrong with them a lot of time. And so they get a pill or something to take care of them. I feel like that's a problem. That's something we should talk about. Also, in addition to that, like these people are like are
well,
weight
them
on the
not
system.
dealing with it and not
Hold
going
on.
to the doctor
But
and getting any care wouldn't be any better, right?
Okay, but let me hear you
You
out.
can get
Right?
referred to a therapist for your hypochondria.
I had an aunt, right, and this is one of the. She was a hypochondriac. This is someone that lives here in America, and she would like call me all the time, call her family all the time. She was basically really ill, but she like was like, oh, this is happening. Oh, I think I have cancer. Oh, I have this, and she'd be scheduling like MRIs regularly, just like all the time. One an MRI.
Did you ever schedule therapy?
Oh yeah, she schedules all sorts of shit, bro. Like let me tell you, there was
No,
not
like you
enough.
should have
There
got
was
her
not
treatment
enough.
for that, right? If she
Yeah,
has the health care.
Listen, Papa. Listen, we tried. We tried. There were people tried. They're like, this is a hypochondriac, and she was taxing. She was very taxing on everybody in the family. Now, I'm imagining somebody like that doing that to a socialized healthcare system where they basically can't tell them no, and that's terrifying. That why would I want like hypothetically my tax dollars going to somebody who can't accept that there's actually nothing wrong with them, and they're just going and running up the bill on MRIs all the time? Like that. Come on, like. Why should someone have to pay for that? Can you actually give me an argument?
I think that's like a minority of people that are doing that. So
it's a pretty big minority, though.
Well, again,
Like,
you just heard. What was that? What was that? Factoid, lactoid.
Yeah,
it was
5%, 50%.
Yeah,
about 5% of the U.S. population uses about 50% of all the healthcare.
That's embarrassing.
Like the chronically ill use up like almost all.
Yeah, wait.
Why is that embarrassing?
Yeah, if people have cancer, if people have these things.
Dude, I know so many hypochondriacs. I literally know so many hypochondriacs.
This isn't hypochondriacs.
Do you think it's hypochondriacs that are using that much of the healthcare system?
Dude, my mother-in-law goes to the freaking eye doctor all the time for no reason.
Yeah.
And she gets charged every single time.
Yes, no, I'm
every
sure
single time.
Actually, it is a hypochondriac, so he's part of it.
Hypochondriacs exist. Yes, they do exist, and there's
not a
somewhere
majority of
within the
healthcare
system.
users.
Granted,
Corey,
yes,
I didn't even go to the hospital after I
people
crashed my motorcycle.
I'm obviously joking.
I don't.
You do identify as a hypochondriac, though.
Are elderly individuals. Most of them, right? And they're just some people who are just adult leaders who are just sickly individuals. That's just where it is. I mean, it's how any system would work that way. That you would have a very small amount of people using a vast majority of the healthcare system, no matter how you organize that.
No. It's not just scammers using the healthcare system, and that's the whole 5%. It's probably a relatively small percent.
An impactful.
It'd be interesting to find out.
I don't think it's impactful at all.
Listen,
it is impactful, and this actually affects something though, because of this fact that 5% uses 50%. Even by like the left's estimates that like if you move to a fully socialized healthcare system, the overall cost burden will be lower. Your average person will be paying more, because that major cost used up by the 5% is going to be redistributed more amongst the rest of the people who purchase insurance, or I guess in this case, mandatorily purchase insurance through their taxation. So it's overall like financially.
How much would each individual be paying like out of their taxes versus what they're paying monthly right now?
It scales up. It scales up like because we have progressive tax system. So like if you don't make a lot of money, like you're probably not going to be paying all that much more. But if you I don't know, you make an okay amount of money, you're going to be paying a lot more.
So like health insurance costs are, I've had several debates about it, and
what if it was a
I will
flat
just say
fee?
that it's very difficult to determine health insurance
Flat
costs.
fee.
And
Now we're talking.
One of the reasons is, first and foremost, you can't look at price in health insurance as a means of actually figuring out what the cost is and comparing it to, let's say, the UK in terms of like the NHS, right? One of the reasons you can't do that is if you look at just the price point, right? Well, there's the black book, right? There's the fact that insurance companies pay less and they negotiate to pay less. There's also the fact that you can get a bill and be like, hey, I can't pay that. And then they'll drastically reduce your bill. So is that actually the cost, or is that just the stated price? Another problem with it is Cadillac insurance plans exist in the US. They don't exist in the UK, right? So there are people that pay more money for their health insurance because they like really good health insurance, or because their union negotiated it, right? This was a big deal in like the 90s. People were talking, especially when, or it came up again with Obama when he was trying to come out with the ACA, because people like Teamsters were worried that they were going to lose their insurance plans because their insurance plans are the best in America, right? You go to like the nicest hospitals. They don't ever deny anything. You get like, people treating you hand and foot, like they just because there's a higher quality of care because you pay more money, and that is negotiated in their union contract. So how do you'd have to compare base costs versus base costs in a place like NHS, because when you compare averages, it also includes bankruptcy that other people are playing, the black book, what the actual cost is, people that are paying more for a higher quality. So when you actually do the math and you try to find out, it's actually drastically more expensive in socialized countries as it is in America. But what you'll see is they'll constantly just list prices and be like, look how much a bag of saline costs. And it's like, why is saline so expensive? And that's another thing they do. It's very tricky, but what they'll do is hospitals make saline incredibly expensive. Why? Because if you go into the ER, the more injured you are and the longer you're there, the more saline you use. The less injured you are and the less time you're there, the less saline you'll use, right? So if you're a gunshot wound or you need surgery, you need a lot of saline. But if you go in with a cold, you don't get any saline. So saline is a thing that they jack the prices up on because it accurately is a predictor of where the most resources are going. If you're coming in with a gunshot wound, you're going to get a lot of doctors, surgeons, ER doctors, immediate care. These things are expensive, as opposed if you're there for a cold, these things are cheap. So again and again, you will see these comparisons about price, and they try and sell you this idea that socialized medicine is cheaper. And when you actually look into the data and understand the data, you will find that it is radically more expensive in those countries. And for whatever reason, I cannot figure out the life of me. Socialized countries are their medical debts are ballooning, and their lack of doctors are so bad that they're almost incapable of engaging in preventative medicine like they should be. And it's something that you would think socialized systems would use, right? Because it's high time preference to not engage in that behavior. There's no reason that insurance companies in America and the NHS and socialized medicine don't just pay the couple grand it costs to get you genetic testing so you can know what diseases you're likely to get 40 years later. We should have that information. And yet, across the board, both in America and in these other countries, they don't engage in it. In America, we don't do it because our system, our for-profit socialized system, is not a health insurance system. It's a managed care system. The only thing they give a fuck about is keeping you healthy enough to survive for 5 years until you go to another employer, or even better, if you get so sick you lose your job and now you're the government's problem. And then everybody else can pay for it because you can't work a job and the health insurance company can wash their hands of it. But for some reason, they do the same shit in Europe and they do the same shit in Canada, where they're not paying for things that have insane returns on investment. And I don't know, are all of the politicians that do this just fucking retarded? I don't know. I guess maybe socialists don't understand saving money. I don't get it. It's insane to me that isn't at least standard in those countries. But I mean, that's what you get.
I wanted to touch on what Ali said real quick before we go
I do have to leave.
Yeah,
I wanted to end it. I actually wanted to wrap up. Yeah, I want to wrap up.
Speaking of which, I got to take my mom to the hospital tomorrow.
But hon, let's let our friend finish up, and then we'll wrap things up quickly.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to say it was interesting right there to me that Ollie, you proposed like a flat rate. Because that's generally not a leftist position. It's more so that's generally something supported more by like Republicans. It's like a concept of
not a leftist.
Yeah, sure. Well, you're center left. I mean, you're not.
I think I'm the only
because you don't understand what a leftist is. We've been over this many times before.
I do understand.
I think I'm the only centrist.
If you're not a centrist,
sure.
He's not a,
but okay, well, he's not a leftist. All right,
he's absolutely leftist.
Okay, anyway,
like Joel's definition.
He's left of you. Doesn't mean he's a leftist. Okay, all right, let's.
Is he leftist?
Any which way, this has been great. I want to thank Brian Tyler Cohen. Do you guys know who he is?
Yeah, of course. They're a pretty big YouTuber, left-leaning, progressive YouTuber.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, like millions of subscribers.
I don't know them. But
if we're talking about the same Brian Tyler Cohen, like maybe we're just totally different, but.
How would I know? I don't know the person. I'm saying.
Did they rate him?
But anyway, they rated me previously. I didn't see it on Twitch. with 100 or so people. Shout out to that person.
If it's like that's like a giant, again, millions of subscribers on YouTube.
Well, now on Twitch. There's a whole 100 people on Twitch.
I think they just started streaming on Twitch, I believe.
Okay. Well, I should reach out. I don't know who this person is, but thank you. And if you're from his audience, this was a fucking while ago. Almost all of them left. But hit the subscribe button. No, I'd seen it previously, but it was no point. Hit whatever. Don't make fun of me. Anyway, hit the subscribe button if you're on Twitch here. We'd love to have you. Sorry. No, well, yes, subscribe, but I meant follow button. Yeah, follow the channel. And support us. We'd love to have you. We have these conversations all the time, and we get really agitated with each other. So shout out to that person.
I don't get agitated.
You know that's Ali. No, Ali is the one who just could not calm down.
To be agitated.
Yeah.
Gibbs gets agitated. Ollie, I don't know what goes on with Ollie.
We just won't stop.
Right? I don't have hater blockers on.
Let's I'll give an outro. Lactoid, thank you for being here, friend. You were fantastic. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, thank you for coming through all the time.
Yeah, I'm speaking. Maybe this is because I'm a lawyer, but please don't kill people just because you don't like their profession. I would really appreciate that. Thanks. But realistically speaking, you know, I think that a lot of the people celebrating this shooting is pretty similar to why there were people who celebrated the 2014 Isla Vista killings from Elliot Rodger. And it's ultimately because, as kind of I was trying to hint at before, I think fundamentally this sense of entitlement comes down to, I'm mad at you because you're getting something that I can't have. And I think that when this goes towards hate and anger and violence, this is, I think, bad, and I think one of the worst expressions of human emotion. If you like what I had to say, you can find me at Lactoid TV on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. And yes, Prime, that was very specific because it relates to a very specific word that I can't say on Twitch. So.
Okay. Right. Well, I want to discuss a lot of this stuff more with you guys off stream. Lactoid, I wanted to say something previously though, and we don't have to expand on this here, but like I don't think it's left or right thing. I think it's more of a populist expression of rage rather than strictly left or right. I think we reduce things to that binary, and we end up missing a lot of the nuance of these discussions. But
so true.
I think populism is somewhat economically left, though.
Yeah.
I think the good kind of populism is economically left, but there is a right wing populism. But but even right wing
populism, which is economically left.
Well, sure, but even like right wing populism, you would agree, like there's, you might think they're racist or like they're xenophobic or whatever, but like the economic policies, when somebody goes up and is like, yeah, we're gonna implement this thing for free, or like we're not going to let you die in the streets or whatever. Like this is a left wing.
I think right wing populism. I don't think that's what right wing populism looks like. But we'll get discuss later. I'd love to go into Scott. Thank you. You are also fantastic. You added so much to this conversation. I do appreciate you. Sometimes I get a little frustrated just because I got to move the conversation along, but like I do appreciate all your additions.
He taught me a lot. Scott taught me a lot.
Oh, I appreciate it. So I am Fabian Liberty on X and YouTube primarily. I'm on other platforms, but that's where I usually am. I am a anarcho-capitalist, which is basically a right-wing anarchist libertarian, as it was defined by Murray Rothbard, who coined the phrase as an American movement. I mean, Lactoid, I think you're 100% correct, obviously, on that last take. It's resentment, right, from Nietzschean's will to power, right? It's slave morality. And populism is, and at its basis is the belief that the elites control us, and that the elites are making it bad for the working class and for the people at the bottom, and that we have to overthrow those that are in power, that are elites, so that we can collectively reap the benefits of our nation. And the logical end conclusion of that is either socialism, communism, or fascism. Sometimes it leads to an awakening of people, and hopefully more people awake from that populist movement and learn some libertarian philosophy, because there is a third way. And I hope you come find me and I'll tell you all about it. I will begrudgingly talk economics. It's not my strong suit. But unfortunately, when you're an ANCAP or a libertarian, it's what you're forced to argue most of the time. But most of my content is, I studied psych and sociology and, things of that nature. But I appreciate you having me, Prime. I do.
Shout out to you, Scott. And it's also news that Scott begrudgingly talks about anything. I don't know.
I begrudgingly listen. Yes, I have an associate degree. I have an associate degree in economics, and I hated it so much that I immediately switched degrees when I went for my bachelor's into grad school. Right? It's not my favorite topic. It's boring. Viewers usually don't like it, but when people say, but it's important, and so because it's important, I feel the need to dispel with myths, because it is the most it's the most logic based part of talking politics, right? A lot of things are based upon feelings and emotions, and economics is you can break it down just to its science.
Okay, thank you so much, friend. Corey, thank you so much for coming through. You're fantastic, and I love you.
I always appreciate being here. I always look forward to Mondays and all that transpires here. It's quite the roller coaster ride. You can find me on Twitch, Corey Campbell 84. You can find me on X, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. It's Corey Campbell. And I have something to plug on Wednesday. Okay, I'm actually going to be teaching one of my students live biochemistry. They have their biochemistry exam the next day, and I'll be preparing them on stream live, or maybe sabotaging them. Who knows? Find out. And also, I do have to correct the record. A couple of things. One, Lactoid is Canadian. No matter what he says, he is Canadian.
100%. Don't let him lie to you.
And two, I'm just a biochemist, not an expert, but I'm pretty sure you're not going to find AIDS in a syringe. But yeah, Grid 1, Motorsports, Sociologic, Ali, Gibbs, Van Gogh, Scott, Lactoid, always a pleasure. Love you, Prime.
I love you too. Vince Van Gogh, thank you for coming through. We're happy to have you here. We'd love to have you here again in the future. Vince, thank you for coming through.
I appreciate for having me on. I know I wasn't too vocal, but once you guys started going off, I was like, okay, I'm out of my depth here. Let me just learn and listen. I do agree with Scott on a lot of things, but he said some stuff that, he needs to learn, and maybe I can educate him on a few things, change his opinion on some stuff. But
good luck with that.
I'm excited to come back next time.
I wonder if Scott ever thinks that anyone anywhere,
anyone
at least on the company's channels, can ever educate him on anything. I feel like.
How do you think I got so smart? It's because I'm actually super humble.
The most humble. Nobody's more humble.
Bingo. I like the enthusiasm.
Number one humbleness right here.
We call it
number one
humble Liberty Scott.
He is the best at being humble. The best, I tell you. He's so good.
The Humblenator.
So humble.
But shout out to you, Vince. And yeah, we'll send you invites in the future. We'd love to have you later on. Admiral Gibbs, you are I love you so much. You make my world better. So thanks for being here, friend.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say two things. One, for the amount of times I've gotten called retarded by lefties lately, and then ended up being right on all my predictions. It's been amazing. So I guess if a retard can see what's coming, what does it say about them? And secondly, I guess after the amount of times being called retard, you know what got to me, guys? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go do a line of cocaine off my checkbook and then wipe my eyes with the tears, because that's the only way I know how to deal with my problems.
So, you have a checkbook?
Yeah, that's how you know. Yeah. If you own a business, you have a checkbook. I'm just saying. Anyway, other than that, I got one more thing. According to the Black's Law Dictionary, leftist is a person with left-wing political views. So anybody that's got left-wing views, y'all are all leftist. I don't give a shit how y'all break it down. Fuck all that shit. Y'all can sit and cry about the specifics later.
Non-specific leftism.
We're fighting all of y'all.
One
one last thing. Oh, so sorry. I do want to plug one thing. if I can, give me a break. Turn 7:30 on Thursday. It's gonna be wild times. We're gonna be arguing over TikTok. Ending gonna be a new social media golden age and the Syrian bullshit.
Scott's called you a retard as well, to be clear.
Yeah, well,
right?
that's okay.
Like,
I mean,
okay.
At least he likes money. At least he likes money and doesn't sell out his values for it. Like money. Like, see, Scott likes money, but even if
He's
it was
a
between money and his morals,
right in the
but
name.
yeah, but hold on. I'll give Scott credit. If it became someone gave him money to compromise morals, I don't think Scott would do it. Other people, they want to talk about morality, and then they compromise for everything they believe in for like a check that I use as toilet paper.
It's convenient for you, Gibbs, because your morality is your money. So it all works out.
I appreciate it, Admiral.
Let's go to our friend Ali. Thank you so much. You were fantastic. You were a lot of fun today.
Yeah, when it comes to things that aren't so political, I usually am able to engage a little bit more. The politics stuff when it comes to regulations and laws and stuff, which is the social topics, I got them. But I was actually going to suggest that we actually have a discussion, figure out what a leftist and the rightist and whatever it may be is. I think that'd be a pretty decent topic discussion for us. Just an intro.
I think
thanks
Scott
for
would
having
be
me.
extremely aggravated at that one.
But he has so much to educate us on,
No, I'm gonna leave that alone.
I'm not gonna get aggro. What are you talking about?
Bullshit.
Every time he says his aunt problem, I take a shot now. I don't know if y'all know that. I've been drinking every time he says it.
I'm a classical liberal, guys, right? Obviously, I'm what you mean when you say liberal. I'm the real liberal. All of you have moved. I haven't. Okay. All right. Anyway,
but yeah, Gibbsy. I disagree. I don't think TikTok's going
I'm
anywhere.
just being right loudly. That's not me being angry or upset, right? I'm just making sure my voice is heard over top of all of you plebeians, right? And we'll learn you something, and it's okay.
Gotcha.
Real good.
All right. Let's go to our friend Ali. Grid. Grid, thank you as well for coming through. It was great to have you.
Good to be back. It was excellent being back, actually. I'm glad I slipped in under the wire. My son had a violin concert tonight and with his school or for his school or whatever. And
I didn't know you were Asian.
Huh?
That's funny.
My son is half Asian. My wife is Chinese.
Really?
He has my son has no choice but to learn the violin or piano. Right?
When racism is accurate, I love it.
Oh God, Scott! Right? You can always find the racism in a moment. Thank you.
Yeah. So he.
I'm sorry to do that. I'm sorry if your wife ever sees this.
No, that's all right. No, my wife. My wife will find it funny probably. But
is she where is she? Is it like what ethnicity?
She's Chinese.
Chinese, okay.
Yeah.
Chinese.
Yeah.
100%. Oh, that's why you were in China, and that's why you'd use the healthcare system. Okay.
Yes. Not all at the same time, but yeah, it's close enough. So great to be back again. Did slip under the wire. Missed a little bit of the first conversation, but I think I came in okay. I really, the insurance thing just gets me every time. I actually had one of my chatters was said something that is just so insightful. If you guys would prefer to, if you want, you can just send me your money and I'll ignore your phone calls and deny you and just keep your money. It's the same as the insurance company. It's the same. You get the same result. So as long as I thought that was great. One of my chatters was like, "Hey, I'll do that for you," and I was like, "You know what? I'm going to use that in my closing," and I did. Good to see everybody again, Admiral Gibbs. Man, you and that counterpoint fellow, that was entertaining. I really appreciate that.
I'm glad somebody was entertained. That's what I'm here for.
I know. I'm glad too that you were here to entertain me. Guys, you can find me at Grid1-Motorsports on YouTube, and I do a show 5 times a week.
Thanks so much. Okay, I'm going to send you guys off. I'm
going to drop down, guys. So we'll.
Sure.
We'll
I'm going to
Sorry?
Sure. I'm going to send my audience off. This is a female streamer, and from the screenshot, looks pretty cute, which is
Salmon in the
all that
chat,
matters
female
here.
streamer.
Female.
Yes, everybody do that. That's what.
All you raiders, female.
All right, guys. I made it. I made it through another one, guys. Why did my camera not take over? What the heck? What the heck? All right, it doesn't matter. All right, guys, I'm actually gonna kill the stream. I'm gonna send you guys off. I'm gonna actually go jump on just really quick. I'm gonna go jump on somebody else's panel really quick. Jess, thank you so much for the support. I saw that you did the memberships and you donated a few bucks. I appreciate that, Jess White. You're tops in my book. I'm gonna go over to Sarah's for the Raging Tomato and cause some problems over there for a few minutes, and then I'm going to bed. You guys come over if you want. I'm going to send you over there, and if you don't want to go there, that's fine. I won't take offense. And the outro will start, and then the stream will end. Actually, no, it won't. It will just end. You guys have a great rest of your evening, and go be cool. Wear glasses if you need them.